Everybody, it's the FWS World Series.
The largest action sports festival in the world.
16 parks, 30,000 kilometers traveled, 500 athletes. All leads to here.
Firing it out, double bar spin. Holy smokes.
Perfect. Absolutely amazing.
The energy from the fans is phenomenal.
The largest BMX contest in the world.
The Olympics. Who could potentially qualify for the 2020 games?
When the smoke clears, we are going to have a champion.
Welcome to the FWS World Series 2019. I'm Ryan Meyer. This is Daryl now, and we are live in Hiroshima, Japan, about to get ready to start the BMX Park Men's. It's the freestyle semi-qualifications. It's going to be going on right behind us. We have a lot of information coming at you. This is the first stop on a three-part World Series. Let's take a look and see all the action that's going on out here in Hiroshima. So you see right now, this is the beautiful city of Hiroshima. We have the course located right here. You see a couple new stuff brought in from Hurricane Parks. Dale, you want to touch a bit on that amazing park course you see?
Yeah, you can see right here, Hurricane designed one of a course specifically for this event. You can see it's box jump heavy. What I mean by that, we have a big box in the middle, we have a step-up box, we have a low and long box, and we also have some elevation changes out there. It's going to enable the riders to really dig deep in their bag of tricks.
You see right there, it's a three-stop World Series. Of course, we are here until the 21st. It means it's Saturday today, the 20th, out here in Japan. We're going to be moving over to Montpellier and then Chengdu, of course, finishing off the tour as we usually do in Chengdu, China. So thanks you guys for tuning in. We're incredibly excited to start things off out here in Hiroshima, but this as well is a huge part for UCI BMX Freestyle Park Championship going on for all the BMX professionals. What does this really mean out here?
Yeah, Ryan, we're seeing history in real time. 2020, Tokyo, BMX, skateboarding are going to be, it's the first time. It's crazy, yeah. Right? So the first time the BMX is going to be there, but we're seeing from November up until May 11, 2020 is a points race,
yes,
where we have all of our riders out there competing, not for themselves, but for their country. And they're going to be trying to get the most amount of points. So by the numbers for the Olympics, we're going to have 18 riders that will be represented out there. 9 men, 9 women in the competition. Now, Ryan, if we're going to break that down, our host country is Japan, so they're going to get 1 spot. And then, like we said, our countries are going to be competing out here.
Yes.
The top 2 scores from riders together, the country with the highest will actually get 2 places in there. The countries then qualifying in 2nd through 5th will each get 1 rider represented. And last but not least, that leaves 2 additional spaces, which are going to be important for our riders who are independent riders who maybe don't have a counterpart that can compete on this level. And they are going to have an opportunity at the UCI Urban Cycling World Championships in November to get their score put on the map. So by the numbers, 18 riders, 9 men, 9 women, 1 going to Japan. The other spaces, our countries are going to be figuring out who's getting the top points out here, and then 2 spots will go to individual riders at the UCI World Championships.
Exactly. So it's a crazy complicated format. If you guys want to go check it out online, of course, all the details are there. But things to note, 8 countries are going to be represented in the Olympics in 2020 in Tokyo. Of course, you said 1 host country, 2 for the winner, and then 1 for each other country. Well, let's go down to the format right now for this event.
Right now, it's all about the FWS World Series. 24 riders are going to be in our semifinals. We broke them up into 6 different heats of 4 riders. You can see that there's 2 runs of 60 seconds, and it's the best run that counts. So important. We are going to highlight that it's the best run format because it gives the riders the opportunity, if they put down a great run, to then play with their score in their second to maybe have that risk-reward factor that they could wind up sliding around. Well, right here we're seeing the criteria of judgment. This course is designed specifically for the event, so the judges want to see the difficult tricks go down. They want to see the rider bring the speed, which is equal to the amplitude, blasting up and high. You and I always talk about originality and style out there, but since this is a qualifier for the Olympic Games and one of the highest points that a rider could win, they want to see the use of the full 60 seconds and looking for that perfection. So they will be penalized if a foot goes down or it's not a perfect run. Right now, we're taking a look at our judges, Brian Kaczynski, Dave Cleworth, Dave Dilward, Marcus Vilk, and Ruben Alcantara. That is right, do not adjust your screen. I did say the Spanish legend Ruben Alcantara is joining us for the first time. He helped redefine BMX riding, not only with the crazy jumping variations, one of the first to do 360 tail whips, but then reinvented the styles.
So right there you have our first page coming up. Michael Caine, Jonathan Camacho, Michael Barrett, Jake Walworth, Daniel Sandoval, Alex Colborn, Declan Brooks. Moving into our second page, ninth rider is going to be Kostya Andreev, Brandon Lupos, Jake Leva, Ben Wallace, Jose Torres Gil, Marin Rantes, Ilya Graisev, and Jack Clark in 16th place there. Then 17th, our third place here, Daniel Dares, Justin Dowell, James Jones, Ryan Nyquist, the man, the myth, legend himself, Nick Bruce, Rim Nakamura, Logan Martin, and Kevin Peraza. Tongue twisters all over and a completely global roundup for the FIS World Series 2019. It's going to be an amazing event out here for the UCI BMX Freestyle semi-qualifications here, semifinals.
Yeah, Ryan, take a look at this course. This is the exact opposite of what we had last year. It was a bowl-heavy course where riders had to rely a lot more on style and flow throughout the course. We actually didn't even have a box jump out here, so it's great seeing the FIS shake things up, switch things around, and this course actually, like we talked about, has a lot of box jumps, but also a lot of open space where we might see riders like Kevin Peraza, who is our top qualifier, utilizing some of his technical park tricks that are not just focused in the air. So the way the riders are racked right now, this is reverse order from our qualifying yesterday. We've got our first heat of 4 riders.
So you see here, heat number 1, of course, this is going to be Michael pushing through and dropping in. Like you were mentioning, this course now has a perfect box jump where athletes are able to hit that huge trick variations, 360 double bar spin to tuck no hander into a backflip bar spin right there, and a 360 on that small G-Shock. Little mini box setup jump, I would call that one. Going backwards, going down on that helicopter right there. That's the backflip double tail whip. Just a little bit of an over rotate for Caine, but coming up and getting his momentum going once again. Michael Caine here, throwing things up in nice air and going back to the box jump one more time. Not quite getting the trick, so this is going to be a difficult run right now. All the athletes here know that they're going to have to throw down to stay in that position for making a finals tomorrow. A lot of incredible talent. Let's take a couple highlight looks back at what is going on there.
Yeah, let's take a look at that backflip bar spin on the step. We talked about it being a box jump heavy course. There's the backflip double tail whip attempt. That's our larger box jump feature out on the course. Unfortunately, not able to put his pedals on. But we talk about this being a best run format. That's what's going to be important, his second run. So unfortunately, his strategy is going to have to be, I'm putting all my chips on the felt, and I'm going to have to make it work in the second run. So this is our first stop of 3, and the first score coming in a 41. So that is going to be the score to beat. We do have our 24 riders competing in our semifinal, and we are going to be taking the top 12 to final. Well, right now, this is one of the most exciting riders in BMX, coming from Ecuador. Not only is this street ripper, but he definitely can bring that big style to the park. This is none other than Jonathan Camacho.
Man, a rider who has definitely come to his own throughout the series in the last couple of years. We've watched him so many times, but it seems like every time out on course being more and more composed and getting those tricks into the higher caliber. He's starting off quite low in the grid here, but starting off strong there with a backflip double tail whip.
Wow, talk about Camacho bringing his A-game, 2 big hits, both of them involving the double tail whip, one with the backflip transfer and the other with a massive 360. Camacho right now bringing it over that box jump 3 times around. So confident with the tail whips on the back end of his bike. Right there showing you that same confidence with the handlebars on that bar spin variation. Camacho is on fire, backflip tail whip. Right now, the Ecuadorian rider going for that 360 transfer around the capsule. Camacho with very important 15 seconds on the clock. We talk about this being a make or break. We've got the UCI technical delegate Bart de Jong making sure that all of our judges are watching the riders up to the final seconds to make sure that they keep their feet on the bike. And Camacho with a huge tail whip. That was insane, Ryan.
Amazing riding from Camacho right there. First run out of the gate, and it was a solid one. Very difficult for riders.
Yeah, Camacho, just taking a look at the highlight reel, that was the entire 60 seconds for his first run. That was the triple tail whip 3 times around. You see the commitment, the upper body just pushing and pulling those handlebars around. Camacho putting down a big run. Let's see if the score is going to reflect that. We had our qualifying yesterday. Almost 80 riders cut the pack down to 24, and Camacho knows that everyone is out here bringing their A-game. There is no fluff. There is no filler at the Feast World Series. Tokyo 2020 is in every rider's sight. You can see that by representing the Ecuadorian colors on his jersey. Camacho is here to get the points and to be a contender for his country. He wants to be in that spot. You see it right there, proud and loud. And Camacho at the 69.25. Wow, so the judges out there being really strict with the scores. We don't have a basic standard to go off of, but we're seeing the scores being really strict out there from the judges.
But you know, the judges, they're very experienced in this category, and they know that we have a huge packed field of the top BMX athletes in the world coming out here, and they don't want to leave too much, push too much forth. If they have a high score right out of the gate, it gives them a very small margin to work with later on in the contest.
Now, Michael Baran on course, a very exciting rider to watch. He not only has big tricks like that backflip double tail.
Oh no, Michael, haven't seen Michael out here for a while. Took a bit of a break and reworked his structure throughout the off season, but I was very excited to see Michael Baran back out on the FIS World Series this year. I think he's going to have to hold it for the second run, of course. He definitely has the ability to make it up into the finals, one of the top competitors in BMX Park throughout the last couple of years.
Yeah, now Ryan, let's take a look. Backflip double tail up. You see the confidence out of Michael. He is a seasoned rider, but as you said, we're seeing him back here, and he went for this big transfer up to build speed, and he actually went with the back tire slide on the coping. That wasn't intentional right there, so you saw it pitched his weight forward over the handlebars. Some riders actually will slide up there with their back wheel, but when it happens when you're not expecting it, because you got a little too much juice on the pop-up there, it could do exactly what happened, pitched over the bars. Thankfully, Michael's all right. Looks like he will be able to ride his second run, but obviously that score will wind up being a throwaway. So we mentioned our 5 judges. Now, the first score coming in for Camacho was a 69.25. Michael's score is going to be 11.25. The judges out here are going to want to see a rider utilize this course. It's specific for the event. That paid off last year with Brandon Lubos, where he flowed through the park and didn't just rely on his jumping tricks out there and found the lines. Even though this is a box-heavy course, the riders are going to want to utilize any transfers they could find out here, and that includes the capsule, that includes some of our hips, and also the elevation changes.
And especially that sub box right there, utilizing it for a drop-in backflip. Shout out to Dave Mira. Jake Wahlberg, double tail whip transfer, and then a huge flare on that quarter-to-quarter transfer. Beautiful look back, utilizing that air and hip. Coming up in that TSG step up on the spine there. Wow, front flip flare, beautiful execution on that trick.
Yeah, Jake Wahlberg, very talented rider coming out of Australia. The cool thing to note about Jake is he had a big end to his 2018 season. He actually finished first at our World Series finals in Chengdu, where he wound up putting down big flips front and backwards with bar spins as well. We're seeing Wahlberg just reached into his game plan from Chengdu out here on his first run with 10 seconds to go for Woolwork.
I was watching him do this in the training. He was doing it in a train. It gets kind of crazy sometimes when you have 30 BMX athletes riding on a course once trying to train. And he did that so flawlessly. It was absolutely a highlight for me. And seeing him pull it in the first run, you just know how dialed he is coming into this series this year.
Look at the red carpet entrance, the backflip drop-in. You mentioned Dave Mira. He was the first rider to ever do that in competition. And in the 2018 series, we saw a lot of riders start their way off, and Woolwork is trying to stick with his winning formula of that front flip with the bar spin. So difficult because you see the way the handlebars have to rotate while his weight is forward, and he can't hit the bars on his knees to get that full spin around. So Woolwork just charging his first run. This is a place a rider wants to be in. Getting a solid first run down, obviously you want the score to reflect that, but it's gonna give Jake a little bit of headspace to say, all right, my first run, I got a solid one in, and I can play with that risk versus reward factor. Because the more difficult the tricks, the more probability that might go up in the odds that you could potentially crash. Progression is a big thing out here at 86.25, so Woolwork bumping up into that top spot out there. Woolwork, Camacho, Mitchell, and Baran as we work our way through our first riders and go back to the top for Mitchell.
That's a big score coming out of the judges right now, and it's going to be a hard one to keep up with. Kane about to drop in right here. Gonna get his run going. Following his first run score 41, he needs to step things up to stay in the running. Kane Mitchell right now on course 360, double bar spin to tuck no-hander. Possibly that was a triple bar spin in there. Backflip, bar spin.
So we're seeing right now, Kane knows he has to get a big run in his second score, and he is charging with the backflip tail whip. The strategy changed a little bit. He said, you know what, I'm gonna make sure I get around and get my feet back on the pedals. He clipped the box jump a little bit. A rider wants to land in that landing just past that white spot on the crest of the landing to get maximum speed. If they don't clear it all the way, points will be deducted, and it can slow them down and also potentially make them fall. But Kane right now is just really getting that flow going with 12 seconds remaining. He's got that big flare. That's the backflip 180. Final 5 seconds going for the front flip, and he sticks it clean. 3, 2, 1. Kane looking for a final thought transfer right there, hanging up a little bit with his back wheel, but Kane definitely getting a more solid run his second time around.
There's a lot of riders coming up right now. We have so much information for you. It's going to take a few moments to talk about some stuff throughout the highlights here in Kane's first run. You guys can watch and see what's going on, but of course, if you want to stay tuned with us on social media, follow us on Facebook at fees.official. YouTube channel is at fees, that's F-I-S-E. Our Instagram and Twitter are both at fees world, and of course, hashtag your post, fees Hiroshima, to stay involved with all the action out here today. We have so much stuff coming in for the 2019 year as well. We're going to have a FEES European Series. Our stop in Madrid, that's going to be the first stop. If you guys are not able to make it to some of the FEES World Series stops, maybe make it out to the one in Madrid. That's going to be happening next month. So put that one on your calendar. Go check us out on fees.tv. You can get all the action. Right now, Kane Mitchell's score coming in there with a 60.25, and we're moving over to Jonathan Camacho for his second run, see where he can line up. Currently, he's sitting in second place with a 69.25. Jake Woolwork's score to beat is at 86.25 right now.
So let's take a look at the lines that Camacho chooses on the course. Getting a little bit loose on that backflip double tail whip right there. So let's see the strategy for the second run. Camacho going back and forth out here. This course is definitely very linear, where it would favor a rider to just go left to right, right to left, back and forth. I have a feeling any rider who's able to break that pattern and break that mold, utilizing the hip, maybe transferring to the spine, utilizing the capsule, will be rewarded, because their riding is technically going to stand out if a lot of riders might do what the eye sees first on the course, back and forth. Camacho right now, 12 seconds to go, spinning over both box jumps, tabletop transfer. The Ecuadorian rider, tail whip over the hip, opposite air into that landing, and that is going to be time for Camacho. So Ryan, we're talking about 2020 Olympics. This is definitely a points race, even though we're seeing Camacho on course. He's actually riding for Ecuador.
Exactly.
So the way it works, we touched upon this a little bit before, there is a lot of information. You can go to the UCI.org to really get it broken down and see all of the active and current points. But the way it works, one spot will go to the host country of Japan, and then we have a contest going on for all of our riders competing in the UCI events to get points. The top 2 scoring per country will combine, and they'll get a score for their country. The country with the highest scores combined will get 2 spots in the Olympics, and then the countries that come in 2nd through 5th will all get a respective spot. Now, someone like Jonathan Camacho, who doesn't have another Ecuadorian rider competing right now, he's going to be relying on our 2019 UCI Urban Cycling World Championships taking place in Chengdu, being the start of November. And we're going to take the top 2 single-scored riders from there to earn their spot into the Olympics. So technically, if Camacho doesn't have a counterpart competing out here, then those are what's going to be really important for him. But within this Olympic race, we have the FIS World Series, which is our 3-part series that goes around the world, and every rider wants to be the FIS World Champion. Right now, Michael Baran on course, no-handed drop-in off that sub, backflip double tail whip, hanging up just a little bit, but this time he's able to set up better for that vertical
360 bike flip. That is a huge trick right there. Nobody else out on course right now will be doing that trick. Incredible action coming back out of Baran. 360 tabletop right there over the box jump. Come on, Michael.
360 downside tail whip, showing you that he's so confident and comfortable contorting the back end of the bike, whether his hands are on the grips or not. There is a no-handed 360, tucking the handlebars into the lap. And what? Going around that hip, double time 270 tail whip. So Baran with that 270 double tail whip, backflip hand plant.
Missing the hand plant on that. Super unfortunate, and he just blew his rear wheel, or tire, I believe, on this one. Upset for Michael Baran on the second run right here.
So Ryan, we saw Michael have that crash at the end. I know that you're always a fan of BMX history, so I'm just going to lace you with a little bit from the encyclopedia of the bike flip. I want to give a shout out to one of the OG Dirt Brothers, Brad Blanchard, who would always go for the bike flip. He was not able to ever fully pull it off at a contest. Then years later, Morgan Wade actually used to dunk his hand, his grip, to get it lubricated in water and go out and started consistently pulling the bike flip in contests. There was a couple riders who were doing them all at the same time, but I'm going to let Morgan hold his head proud as being a rider who's consistently put them down. And then we saw Michael start doing different variations. Then we actually saw Zach Warden, who I know is watching back in the States, do a backflip version to actually late tail whip over a mega ramp. It's crazy to see the progression, but the fact that Michael Baran laced a 360 bike flip in his run so confident and comfortably, that was huge. Unfortunately, he had that back tire issue going on. When a rider loses air out of their bike, not only will it slow them down, but when the compression on the transition goes, the tire can actually, what we call, fold off the rim and throw off your balance. It's easy to wash out to the side, or it's easy to lose your balance. So Baran, it's going to be a 45.75, but I do want to pay respect for Baran coming out and giving his all out there. So right now, our current leader at 86.25, doing it for Australia, looking to be on the top of the podium today in our semifinal, just like he was at our last stop in the FIS World Series in Chengdu.
Oh, getting that big backflip, drop in right there again. Coming back, speed Huge transfer right there. That's what we were talking about, dissecting the course and finding different connections. Utilizing as well that spine. Really love that look back there, coming out of that massive flare transfer. Going channel to channel, and that beautiful front flip flare.
Massive is definitely the way to explain that flare transfer, going all the way across the channel, coast to coast. You see the opposite air end, 360 double tail whip coming up. Wall work is absolutely on a tear right now. He's got 20 seconds to go. Let's see if he can keep this exploding momentum with a front flip around. Very clean. He didn't have the bar spin from the first run, but he's definitely throwing a few extra toppings on the Sunday as he goes through with 9 seconds remaining. Jake, big opposite flare that's not his conventional direction out there. And it looks like he's going to wrap things up with a flare popping loud in his regular direction. Woolworth throwing down a big run out here in his semifinals.
Wow, beautiful action coming right there. We take a look back at that first drop-in. Still managing to grab transition, but perfect transition caught on that backflip transfer, that huge channel transfer right there. Get the front flip, not with the bar spin in it this time over that box jump. Jake recovering, getting some water under the heat out here in Hiroshima. Sun is 20 degrees, absolutely scorching out there. And as we wait for the judges, you guys might be wondering, where are you guys? We're in Hiroshima, Japan. If you guys are anywhere in Japan, make sure you come out. Tomorrow is going to be finals day. We have a lot of action coming your way, including skateboard, UCI BMX Flatland World Cups, the women's, as well as roller freestyle park, and as well we're going to have our UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup men's final in addition to the women's. So it's just a 2-hour train ride, let's say, from Osaka. It's not that far away. Come out here. We are located right now in the former municipal stadium of Hiroshima. Today, we're going to have our qualification day for the finals. Tomorrow, it's going to be all put on the line. Big final day, Sunday, out here in the sun. Weatherman is calling for perfect conditions for action sports. FWS World Series 2019 is off to a great start.
Well, Ryan, as we have our riders of the next heat practicing on course, and we take a little look at some of the replays, I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about our qualification period for the Olympics. It started back in November 1st, 2018, and it's going to proceed until May 11th, 2020. There's all different series of events from C1, which stands for Class 1. We've got our World Cup events, which is the FWS World Series. We've got the UCI World Championships. We've got National Championships and regional games. So there's all these different events which will compose of the top scores for our countries out there. As we mentioned, the riders are competing for their country, not necessarily for themselves. So currently in the rankings, as of April 20th, 2019, with the top 2 combined scores, sitting in first place is actually the United States. Those scores consist of Justin Dowell and Daniel Sandoval. Currently in second in points is Australia's Brandon Lubos, and who we just saw out on course and our current points leader in the semifinal, Jake Woolworth. Sitting in third for the combined score is Team Russia of Eric Ryzev and Kostya Andreev. Fourth is Venezuela's Daniel Dares and Eddie Alvarez. And sitting in 5th place is Great Britain with the scores from James Jones and Jack Clark. So current standings, USA, Australia, Venezuela, and Great Britain. But it's all about the FWS World Series, our first stop here in Hiroshima, where riders will have the opportunity to grab the biggest chunk of points out here for their country. So right here, currently doing it for Team USA, and he has some of the biggest points for his country. He is from California. He's known for his crazy jumping variations. This is Daniel Sandoval. Sandoval right now getting into the zone. You see he's dropping in not only physically but mentally as well. Downside, 360 tail whip, kicking the bike the other way with the tail whip back right to pedals.
Yeah, backflip, Superman C-grab, ED, I believe, or maybe just Superman C-grab. We have mentioned this many times. Sandoval is a rider who has perfected the 360 downside tail whip variation, putting so many combinations through his run, and one of the top freestyle BMX athletes coming out of the United States.
Yeah, Sandoval with that flare bar spin. That's the backflip 180 bar spin. I'm going to love to see some highlights from Sandoval as we break down some of his tricks a little bit further in his run.
360 double tail right there on the box jump and coming backwards. You said it is a very linear course, but he is utilizing really nice transitions here. 360 bar spin to tail whip there.
Sandoval with the wall ride, you see, changed his direction up to go over the hip. He wasn't able to put a combo down, but just floated around it. Final thought from Sandoval is going to be that bar spin, and that will be time for Sandoval. So we do see our riders representing the country's jerseys out there. Like we talked about, they're not only riding for themselves in the Beast World Series, but for their country for the Olympics. Each country has a different federation. It's up to that country to determine how much support they will put behind their riders, whether it's a salary, whether it's a training facility. But right there was Sandoval with that 360 Superman seat grab, kicking his feet up to the sky. We actually saw him play around with that trick for the first time out in Edmonton during the best trick competition. Sandoval, the only rider doing that one, putting his soles right up to the sky. But you see him representing the USA colors, definitely getting support, but it's up to the country to determine how much support they give the riders. It's not an even playing field as far as their budget for the riders, as far as the program, or for the different facilities, but they can determine as we progress to Tokyo, and which will be even more exciting, because this is history right here for men and women's BMX freestyle, how that's going to progress as after Tokyo, we move towards Paris. So Sandoval, 82, the second rider in the 80s, sitting in that second spot for Sandoval. Big score out there, but we mentioned, Ryan, we got 24 riders, top 12 are gonna move on, and we're going in reverse ranking order from our qualifiers. So in theory, as we work through the heat, we're gonna see riders who have the potential to get even higher scores than our first riders, because that's what they wound up doing yesterday.
Right now, we are going to have, I believe Alex Colborne is going to be dropping in from the Great Britain, another country that has multiple athletes competing out here for next year's 2020 Tokyo Games.
Yeah, big shout out to British Cycling for really doing a great program, supporting and sponsoring their riders, backing them. We've got Richard King along with head coach Jamie Bestwick, who's actually on course cheering on Colborne. You know Jamie Bestwick is one of the most celebrated vert ramp riders of all time, and helping give our riders assistance, some of that experience and knowledge when needed. Colborne flying on the elevated part of the course, tail whip, transfer with the 360 bar spin. Now, Ryan, we've seen Colborne time and time again get super technical at the last few seconds of his run. He does have those big beast tricks like that backflip bar spin, but he has that ability to get super tech, especially on the front wheel where other riders can't necessarily deliver, like that bar spin to can-can foot jam. And there you see a foot jam stall up on the wall, and that is time for Great Britain's Alex Colborne. So let's talk a little bit about when that buzzer goes off. If a rider is nowhere near an obstacle and the buzzer goes off, it is not going to count to their score.
Yes.
If they are approaching and about to put down and a buzzer goes off as they're clearly taking off, that can count towards their score. We talked about in the past, if a rider falls at their end of the run, it maybe doesn't hurt their score as much. Well, that was fine when this wasn't an Olympic event.
Exactly.
The fact that this is towards the Olympics are known as the premier sporting event in the world. Every country is represented. It's as big of a show as you can get. Our judges will heavily penalize a rider if they slip a pedal, if they crash. They can get back up and go, but their score will wind up reflecting that. So when it comes down to the end of your run and you had a great run, you got to determine on the spot, am I going to roll the dice and try for a technical combination, a lip trick where you're balancing, and usually you might have to try that 10 or 15 times in practice to get the consistency, or am I going to go with something I know but maybe not score as high? And that's the name of the game out there. And Colborne, with his formula, rewarded with an 80.25, so he's going to be the third rider in the 80s. As we look at the standings, Walwork, Sandoval, Colborne are your current 1, 2, and 3.
Definitely getting a solid score coming out there for Colborne. Like you said, third rider up there in the 80s right now, second rider in the 80s from our heat number 2, and another rider coming out of British cycling. This is going to be Declan Brooks, man who is able to tackle a course in another completely different way than many of the other riders. And you'll see right here, starting off a different way with the small setup boxes and into a transfer. That was a front flip over that G-Star small box, and then pushing back into the box jumps backwards, or up into the step-up, pardon me, 360 double truck driver, push up with a huge flare, tuck no-hander right there, and come in a different way into the box jump.
I know right now all of our global riders following along are cheering on Declan, as he's always a favorite, as he takes his own approach to the courses that most other riders don't. Like we're seeing that transfer right there. No one else has utilized it, setting up for that can-can on the hip. This is what we're talking about. Big manual on the sub-box for Declan. Bar spin in.
Wow, yes.
That was enormous, Ryan. That was an enormous move. Not only is the bar spin in huge, Declan going for another bar spin, looking for the no-hander. Declan, such a big manual, but having to have that confidence for the bar spin out, that is why Declan Brooks is always a favorite out here. And a 3 no-hander at the buzzer. Rooks out there with a big first run. Wow for Declan Brooks.
Big run out there. You notice that he has a lot of different variations with his tricks compared to some other riders who have previously gone. Maybe they don't have the largest combinations. He isn't doing 4 tricks in one, but he definitely takes the amplitude category to a different level, the originality category to a different level, and just tackling that entire course so uniquely. He puts his own touch on it, and that's exactly what we like to see in the sport of freestyle BMX.
Yeah, and we're going to see how the judges feel about the course being utilized in its own way. If a rider could have their own voice on the course and stand out amongst the others, that checks the big box of creativity out there. A lot of judges know that riders can maybe do some of the staple BMX tricks. Yes, they're insanely difficult, but these are our pro riders who have dedicated their life to the sport, and they know how to maybe do a flare, which is a backflip 180 at a quarter pipe at their local skate park, but they want to see how do they utilize it on the course out here, like Declan just did with that manual to bar spin. Each quarter pipe has a little bit of a different transition, and you have to figure it out. Declan with an 83. All right, Declan. So he's going to move up into that second spot with his first run, but he's going to have a lot to work with in his second score.
There you see, like I was mentioning, the judges are, of course, going to be rewarding him in different categories. It's not just the difficulty of the tricks, but he's going then into high flow, originality, versatility, and all these different disciplines. But moving forth now to another incredibly talented BMX athlete, Kenneth Tensio, who also has his own versions that he likes to do for a drop-in. Big one right there, backflip transfer coming from the top of that high quarter pipe.
Kenneth Tensio representing proudly Costa Rica out there. Costa Rica currently sitting 7th overall for points as we go towards the Olympic Games. Normally, Kenneth Tensio is the only rider from Costa Rica that is in the finals at a FIS World Series event. So this might be something that's very important for Tensio to take note, that at our UCI Urban Cycling World Championships, that might be where he needs to shine. But right now he is shining very bright, going around that hip. Maybe giving it a little bit too much juice right there, landing backwards. Not sure if he was looking to do a little more than a 720 out there, kind of coming over that hip, somewhere between that 900 spot, just a little bit under there, an 810, but landing backwards and just getting tossed off the side of his bike. Tensio has a lot of experience out there. He knows he's going to wind up waving off that run. That is not going to be the score to count for Tensio. We will see him for his second run. Here is the backflip drop-in. That's pretty much become one of Tensio's signature moves at a FIS World Series. 360 double bar spin. Did not put his hands on the bars. Some riders like to throw it, catch, throw it. Tensio showing this, the confidence and control. Right there was an off-axis 720 backflip, and here's a look going around. I'm not sure if he was trying to land fakie. His body weight wasn't set up to land fakie. That's when a rider goes in reverse, but he didn't give it enough upper body spin to get that last rotation around. So Tensio right there maybe got a little bit lost out on the course. A lot is going on. There's definitely a lot of pressure out here. So our veteran riders know what it means when it comes to pressure, but No one's experienced what it's like working towards the Olympic Games, how important these points are.
So right now, going back to Daniel Sandoval, California, about to drop in for his second run. Currently, he is sitting with an 82 even. The score to be right now is an 86.25 from Jake Walworth in first run.
Ryan, that was so smooth. His cadence wrapping around his head tube. Same with that tuck nosedive at 720 right there. We're seeing right now in the second run, Sandoval almost pick apart these tricks where he's just riding at a different pace out there.
If you notice right there, that was a beautiful transfer, just setting up into that hip right there, coming off and landing on the spine transition, just setting himself up for a totally different way and dynamic viewing this course.
I like the confidence we're seeing for Sandoval, the way he's executing his tricks. He's definitely putting his own little touch of style as he confidently spots the landings, especially on that 720. Downside 360 tail whip, looking to kick that no-footer. You saw he dabbed a foot off of his pedal. That definitely can deduct points right there if you wind up touching the ground. But Sandoval able to keep it rolling. Tail whip at the end.
Not perfect trick execution from him on this run, but incredible fluidity throughout there and a very unique way of hitting all these lines. It's going to be interesting to see how the judges score all these ones.
Yeah, take a look at this 720. This is what I'm talking about. Getting that nosedive coming down, that's a step up with the elevation change. You're looking at a 5-foot elevation off a very large lip that's 6 feet tall. And Sandoval is able to get that 720 around and then nosedive it in. That was uncharacteristic of Sandoval to slip a pedal there on that 360 downside tail whip. Same with that no-footer. He might have been looking for a different combination out there. That's usually not one that he links together. I have a feeling that the judges are going to be pretty strict with the scores. His first one was an 82. He does have room to move up, but with that slipping of the pedals, it's going to be interesting to see where that will sit on the numeric value scale for Sandoval. Taking a look at the bird's eye as all of our fans are flooding in here at Hiroshima. Peace Park is where we're at. It's so cool to see the support for BMX and also the Olympics from all of our Japanese fans.
It's also interesting to note, okay, not an improvement right there. Daniel Sandoval is going to hold on to his first run score.
One thing I want to note, though, his second score was an 80. So even though Sandoval slipped a pedal, it seems like our judges are putting a little bit more emphasis on style out here. The way that Sandoval did have that nosedive in and also that smooth cadence on his first two tricks. So that's something we want to note as we progress through the competition.
Yes, because of course we have a large criteria and only the trick difficulty is one of those 12 points. Moving forward to Alex Colborne for British Cycling, dropping in right here. The British Bulldog, bar spin transfer to the kicker of that step dump. Huge bar spin to foot jam on that sub box.
You can never count Alex Colborne out. He always delivers when it counts. Usually on his second run, that's kind of his MO out here. 360 double tail and thankfully for him, that's the format we're going with. Best run counts. And that 720 bar spin will definitely be part of his second run score. Tail whip over that long and low box jump. Transfer right there with the bar spin 360. I like that perspective where you can see he actually went diagonal across the park. Not just going linear left to right, but cut the corner from the high part all the way over to the capsule. When you can see that bird's eye view or that different perspective of the course and the rider's plane of riding, you can see what we're talking about in terms of utilizing these hips and these changes out here.
There you go. But how about we're talking about having tricks go after the buzzer? What about if a rider doesn't put all the tricks to the very end? You saw there how Alex Colborne wasn't necessarily riding trick-wise all the way to the end of the buzzer. Is the judge maybe going to deduct for that?
Yeah, Ryan, that's a really good point that you bring up. Because the UCI partnered with FIS, and this is moving towards the Olympics, and we're in the heart of the Olympic qualifiers as far as the determining points, the judges just want to see that 60 seconds maxed out, fully utilized, grabbing it for all it's worth, and if you can put an exclamation point at the end of your run, a big, bold exclamation point, that's what they want to see, and that's going to definitely help your score. But the riders are being judged against everyone else out here, so if we have weather factors, if we have elevation change, we have the wind out there, they're going to all be feeling it, so it's going to be determined on our other riders. Right now, though, a crowd favorite for run number 2, taking a similar approach to his first run, this is Declan Brooks. Since it is that best run format that counts, riders won't be penalized if they do the same run as their first time, but try to maybe up the ante with a few more difficult tricks, or maybe make it a little bit smoother than their first. Declan out here letting it rip, looking for that no-hander after that double bar spin 360. Brooks with the 360 tail whip so smooth over that box jump backwards, which is always more difficult. And look at the way he just floated across the course with that no-hander. So Declan kicking that foot off, one-footed right there.
Happy right now. He knows he's in a very comfortable spot sitting in second place there. He's going to be able to wave it off and be assured almost that he has a spot in tomorrow's finals.
Ryan, almost is the key word though, because we are only taking 12 riders into the finals. We still have yet to see more than half the pack go on the course. So it's a little unconventional to see Declan out there wave it off. That's going to be part of his strategy. He feels solid with his riding. He had a chance to see 7 other riders already take the course. That's why he had that solid run. He said, you know what, I want to maybe save it for the next competition leg. I don't want to show the judges. I want to keep some surprises out there. I want to keep some of the other riders guessing what I'm going to do. And you see him up there with his teammates for British cycling. That is Jack Clark and Ben Wallace. So the Costa Rican ripper, Kenneth Tencio, first run was a 47.50. He's going to have more than 50 points to play with to move up the ladder. Tencio starting in a familiar spot on top of that quarter pipe, which is the sub off the side. Tencio 2 for 2 on the backflip drop in.
Slowly coming up here for speed, coming up into the step up 360 double truck driver right there.
Tencio sticking to the same formula from his first run. Let's see if he's able to just link it all together. Boom, a 360 Superman seat grab. Good extension out there. Putting the legs back while he grabs the seat.
Nice amplitude, but a bit over-rotated on that cork 720. Kenneth Tencio coming up into the hip.
Ryan, that's such a difficult trick. As you know, the riders are only traveling about 6 inches across the deck of that ramp, and Tencio put together that 720 off axis and has to spot the landing. So when the height goes up, you've got to calculate how far you're going to travel into that landing. Tencio suicide no-hander on the step-down transfer. Final 3 seconds rather. Let's see if he can put a final thought together. And it's going to be a flared transfer, landing it clean for Tencio's run at 2 of 2. So we're going to look at some highlights for our last rider of heat number 2.
Will that be enough to crack him into the upper echelon? Great look.
So we have mentioned this so many times that these are the qualifications for the Olympics, but this is the first stop on the FIS World Series. It's a 3-stop World Series. It's going around the world. We're going to be next in Montpellier, France, the home of the FIS, and then moving off for our 3rd stop of the series in Chengdu, China. But in the middle, between June to October, we're going to be having the FIS European Series. If you guys don't know about that, this is a new series that is taking place, and we're going to have our first event starting in Madrid. This is going to be on the 5th and 6th of June. So we're going to be in Madrid for the first stop of that series. Make sure you guys are able to put that one on your calendars. It's also going to be points towards the FIS World Series.
Yeah, Ryan, I just want to clarify for all of our riders out there, it's actually going to be May 3rd through 5th in Madrid. The reason we're just getting that date, this is hot off the press as far as the contest comes in, and we're going to have our riders out there for the contest. You want to make it out there. It's a C1 event. It's open to all riders that get a UCI membership. You can find out that information on uci.org. And you can find out how to get involved, not only in an event in your own country, but how to start racking up points so that you can then join on the FIS World Series. Since we're talking about events in Europe, Ryan, one of our favorites is always out in Montpellier. We will be out there for the second stop of the FIS World Series at the end of May 29th through April 2nd. That is one of the biggest parties in BMX. The spirit of FIS is so strong out there as all of the world migrates to Montpellier to celebrate action sports at our festival. Right now we're looking at some of the last highlights though from our riders. This is Daniel Sandoval's downside 360 tail whip. There is that no-footer slip in the pedals. Here is Alex Colborn going up on that sub. That was the bar spin to can-can foot jam. 720 double tail whip. Looking at Declan Brooks highlights out there, 360 double bar spin, trying to pop that no-hander, and the Costa Rican rider, Ken Atencio, on course. I gotta tell you, I love Kenneth's riding, but I'm digging that 360 double bar spin. It's all about style out there as he winds up just tossing the handlebars, letting them float through the sky, and putting his hands on the grips. Well, we're here for the FIS World Series stop 1 of 3 in Hiroshima. We're in beautiful Peace Park, where we are celebrating all things action sports. This is one of the biggest points qualifiers on our way to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. This is our third heat of riders, and the next rider doing it for Russia, who is currently sitting 3rd overall in points as we make our qualifiers, is none other than Kostya Andreev.
Kostya, known for doing the largest combinations out there, and as well has incredible lip and mini ramp tricks. 360 Superman C grab, Indian air right there. 360 tail whip, double bar spin on the quarter pipe, and coming back here. 360 double tail whip to tuck no hander, Kostya Andreev.
That was awesome because of the full extension on the no-hander. Not only are you putting 4 tricks together in one, but that no-hander was fully extended just like on that transfer on the step down, that time in the 360 full wingspan. Kostya Andreev letting things rip over that hip with an opposite look back, getting that extension, tweaking the handlebars. This is usually where Kostya shines, is with the tech lip tricks. Final thoughts for Kostya. Oh, barely hanging on right there, but able to set up for that flare. Thankfully for Kostya over that hip, he almost had it slip through his fingers right at the finish. That would have been disappointing, but right now it's going to be all up to the judges to determine Kostya's first run out there. That was a crazy run for Kostya Andreev.
Incredible run for Kostya Andreev, really having the banger, starting off heat number 3, really getting the adrenaline going from all the other competitors and the audience out here in Hiroshima.
Let's take a look at Kostya. 360 bar spin to tuck no-hander. That was on the step down, so that was putting 3 tricks in 1 air. Now let's take a look. Full cannonball, grabbing the seat, pushing the bike out. But here we go, 360 double tail whip to tuck no-hander, full extension. That was a huge trick. A lot of riders dream of doing that. A lot of riders will attempt to maybe do 1 tail whip into the tuck no-hander to 360, and it looks like they're just playing the piano. You'll see their fingers just come off the grips a little bit, but that was a full wingspan extension for Kostya as he wound up just putting his hands to the sky, coming into the landing. 4 tricks in 1, and his score reflects that. 88.50, big score for Russia, and big score for Kostya Andreev.
Let's take a look right here. We have Branagh Lubos coming up. Have some highlight clips from him last year.
Lubos dropping in heavy again.
Absolutely destroying it. the other direction.
So there you go, our winner from last year, Brandon Lubos, coming out here trying to defend. You see the difference in courses right there from 2018 to 2019. But right now, he's coming off of that win last year in Hiroshima. He wants to do it again for the crowd. This is Brandon Lubos.
Brandon Lubos off to a solid start for 2019. He actually won our Battle of Champions out in Saudi Arabia. That is not part of the Feast World Series, but it is a Feast-produced event. Lubos feeling good, coming in on a high right now, as last year he was our top winner in Hiroshima. So he's got some wins under his belt, and he's showing you that confidence with that cash roll.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a bar spin in that course 720, but incredible control as he hits transition, nice and smooth right there, and a great front flip over that small setup box jump.
Lubos puts a lot of pressure on himself when he rides because he likes to bring it in the competition format. But the thing that shines so bright to me about Brandon's riding in general is that he absolutely loves BMX. If there wasn't a contest going on, he'd be putting the same amount of love and passion into his riding. Lubos right now getting that final thought, big 540, digging that tuck that he had in the air. That backflip tail was after the buzzer. He wound up slipping his pedals right there, but that's going to be a little bit of a gray area for the judges to see where that score will fit. We keep referring to the judges because they are in a class all themselves. They got to make madness out of these 24 riders we're seeing out here with the 2 different runs. So they got to see where the 48 runs will fit based in off of each other. But Lubos will hopefully be on the top of the pack as he does that cash roll. Look at the 720.
There was a bar spin in that.
Ryan. There was the bar spin in there, which was huge. And you just see the versatility in the spins off axis, on axis, with bars and without out of Lubos. So Australia currently sitting in second place for our points race as of April 20th, 2019. The combined scores of Lubos and Woolwork are the 2 highest riders for Team Australia as we combine all of the qualifying points competitions from our start date, which was November 1st, 2018, and that will continue until May 11th, 2020. And we'll determine which one of the 9 riders for men will be in the BMX Olympics and which one of the 9 for women. So Lubos up there is going to be right behind his Australian counterpart, 85.25. So we've got Russia, Australia, and Australia shining bright as we work our way through the pack. And we move things to the other side of the planet for USA. This is Jake Leva.
Out of Tehachapi, California. Jake Leva, like you said, another rider from America. A huge transfer right there. Not making that a hit, but just dishing down quarter to quarter. Big amplitude on that flare bar spin. 540 flare, if we want to call that.
Jake right now is in the pocket. You can see the way he lands and just is putting wall-to-wall tricks. First rider we saw utilize that transfer. It's a shorter distance to travel, but he was able to just fall backwards with that 360 double tail whip, and the height on that backflip tail whip was so cool. I dig the way that he actually kicked his one foot out for some extra style. It almost looked like he was airwalking if you were to take a picture while he was upside down. Jake right there having a little difficulty on that ice pick stall, but he's got 9 seconds to make up for it.
Oh, a little over-rotated on that transfer right there. He is going to get dogged for that one. Jake, though, he had got a banger of tricks coming out in this run. Just tackled the course with so much speed. I felt like he was getting at least 2 or 3 tricks more than most other competitors out there on the run. We'll have to see how this works with the judges, though. A couple baubles in that one, but it is first run out of the gate for the man from Tehachapi.
Now, Ryan, we talk about riders putting their lives to their craft. dedicating everything to BMX. And generally what happens, the rider learns the basic tricks, the foundations. They're maybe doing some of the other tricks that are a little bit in vogue with the other competitors out there. And then all of a sudden, some riders, you start to see they get their own voice, find their own vision, and find their own style out there. And we've seen that with Jake over the last year's season coming into 2019. Just looks more and more confident, more and more comfortable, and is able to do more and more tricks out there. So Jake has been very excited. We saw that the year prior with Marin Rantish from Croatia, who actually won our FIS World Series overall last year. So he's the defending champion. And let's see if Jake can maybe grab onto some of that energy as we saw his career build over the 2018 series. So Jake is going to be sitting in 6th with an 81. No rider has yet to break into the 90s. The 88.50 is the one to go. The next rider is going to be Great Britain. That is Ben Wallace. Now he is waving to us. What he was doing at first was kindly asking the cameraman to move over a little bit because big Ben Wallace is going to be charging really fast into the course and needs all the setup spot he can have to get that momentum. Great Britain being represented by Ben Wallace as he drops in, cheered on by Coach Jamie Bestwick. Wallace with the 360, with the double tail whip over that hip. His rotation was 90 degrees, not 360. Very cool, nothing to no-footed can-can, penduluming his foot over that top tube.
Coming back with a 360, double downside tail whip on that box jump. Getting great speed going the other way. Oh, a nice transfer step up.
The cool thing about Ben Wallace's riding is that he actually turns in the non-traditional direction. Some riders call it goofy-footed, where he winds up spinning, not pushing with his back leg into the 360. It's an opposite direction, setting up for tricks like that 360 look back or the look back air on the quarter pipe.
Was beautiful execution and just ticking all my style boxes on that 360 look back there.
Other notable riders who do spin in that rotation, Ryan Nyquist, who was our 5th place qualifier in yesterday, also one of the most stylish riders in the history of BMX, Mike Aiken, also was one who did rotate and spin in that direction. So there is no right or wrong way to ride BMX. It's called freestyle. You sometimes do have the traditional foundations, though, that a lot of riders will wind up building upon, but you can do it any way you like. Bob Haro was actually one of the first freestylers ever back in the day and said, you know what, if you're out on 2 wheels and you're doing your thing, that's what it's all about. So Wallace right there cranking that 360 look back, getting that nosedive coming down, getting the pound up there from Jack Clark, one of his teammates. Great Britain currently sitting in 5th in points as we come into this event. Even though Ben Wallace is riding for Great Britain in the Olympic qualifying for points, he is riding for himself in the FIS World Series. So they're 2 events that partner together. That's why you see the UCI logo right up there with the FIS, hand in hand, making Olympic history, and FIS keeping the energy fueled for our BMX riders.
You saw some elation coming out of Ben Wallace as he finished off his run right here. Some pumps of support in his head. He was excited for that. That means some good deeds to come forth. He got his whole entire run out of the bag, I think. Let's see what the judges are feeling for this. Scores, of course, are way into the 80s right now. We have our top 7 currently sitting in 8th place. Here's that amazing course sculpted by Hurricane Parks right now, delivering new and innovative parks for all our freestyle athletes, but on such a high professional caliber of building, transferring them throughout the entire world on our FIS World Series. There we have Wallace moving into 5th place, an 82.5.
So it's going to be Russia, Australia, Great Britain, USA, and USA in our top 7 spots right now. We're going to go back to the top of heat number 3. We have 4 riders in this heat. Doesn't matter if you're in the first heat or the last heat, you are going to be competing to be one of the top 12 moving on. But right now it is all about the Russian rider, our current leader, Kostya Andreev. it might be safe to say if he wants, he could probably coast out here and be okay as far as the qualifier goes. But our riders know if something were to happen with the weather and we're not able to do our final tomorrow, this score will count. So it looks like Kostya is not going to be relaxing out on the course at all. Killer combination. This time 360 tail whip, bar spin, tuck hander. 4 tricks in one. Last time he did the double tail whip. This time he said, I'm going to put the bar spin in there and then throw the hands off. Totally insane.
Some tricks that we're just going to have to talk about as we go through our highlight clip at the end of this session here. But Kostya as well doing a 360 triple bar spin, but not the very orthodox way, doing bar spin back, and bar spin back the other way. Very difficult maneuvers that he's pulling into his final run here. So we talked about cadence in rotation right there. That trick was incredible as well, coming off that small hip with almost virtually no speed from Kostya. Finishing off after the buzzer, showing he has some gas still left in the tank.
Yeah, this was another big run for Kostya. There's the transfer 360, 2 times around the back end and the tail whip. There you go, the cannonball or the Superman C-grab bar spin. They're both kind of the same realm, but that was huge. That was the big apex. That was the cherry on his run right there. 4 tricks in one, the 360 tail whip, bar spin.
Well, 4 tricks right there. That 360 bar spin back the other way. That's a couple trick combinations with 4 hits in one. Some amazing stuff coming out of the Russian right there.
Yeah, you can see from this perspective the course, not only the focus on the box jumps, but what you can't see there, and we did from our other angle, the fact that we do have some capsules and also some different spots on there. So it looks like an 88.50 from his first run will be the score that sticks. He's just a little bit behind. It looks like the judges like that first run, but either or, the 2 highest scores of the day are going to be held on by Kostya Andreev. But right now, a man that can definitely do it big, and we saw him do it last year in Hiroshima. This is Brandon Lubos.
Lubos! Cash roll right there out of the gate. Going into the dish. Popping back out with that 360 bar spin. Tuck no hander, and then into the TSG spine with that backflip tail whip. Transfer the tuck no hander and coming into the hip section right here with that 360 whip.
Yeah, Lubos doing it for Australia with that 360 double tail whip on the step up into a front flip. Great combination. What? 540 flare coming back at us. Those were 3 big hits. When a rider can put them all together in succession like that, it shows how much control they have. And they get more and more difficult because you could lose your point of balance. 540 bar spin. This is a big run for Lubos.
Big run and 5 seconds left on the clock. Does he have time for a little trick finishing off? Small one. We're going to have to see how this one ranks up. Lubos right now, as we've already discussed, is in 3rd place with an 85.25. Starting things right there with that cash roll. That was the first trick out of the gate.
Yeah, and the thing to note on Lubos' run, not only the tricks we're seeing, but how they were all in succession. I loved this 3 hit up top. That was the 360 double tail whip. And then he had that 540 flare. Lubos is a very confident all-around rider. He actually last year won an X Games gold medal in BMX dirt, and he's just showing you that he's got that confidence being up on the box jumps, flowing through the air, but can also do it on the quarter pipes and make things happen and come on through. Lubos' first score is looking to up, and he does it with an 87.50, so he is just 1 point away from our current leader of the Russian, Kostya Andreev. So it's going to be Russia, Australia, Great Britain, and Great Britain are our current top 5 riders. But Jake Leva, Team USA coming in. Let's see, front flip transfer. Leva going the distance, coast to coast on that wall ride.
That is a big transfer. He's the only rider I've seen today hitting that feature like that, completely skipping the hip and just dipping deep down into another quarter pipe right there. Jake has been training day in, day out at Woodward West back home. It's really paying off out here on the course. 360 double tail whip right there for Leva. Tire grab transfer coming backwards into the box jump here with a huge backflip tail whip. flowing through 20 seconds left in his run. Still going strong at the 360 tuck no hander. Oh, looking to do the reverse nose manual right there. Fakey 360 out.
Yeah, Leva trying to press that front tire, bring that tech element to the box jump where he's going to keep his wheels on the ground. Unfortunately, that didn't pay off for him, but there was the front flip transfer on the step down. I like that perspective. You see the elevation change, getting that moto whip going all the way from that extension around the berm, landing on the far quarter pipe. Jake with that backflip tail whip coming around, spotting the pedals, and then he had that difficulty with that G-turn pop out spin on the front wheel. Jake's first score was an 81. Most likely his second score will be the throwaway because of that crash. Yep, 61.75. So Jake is going to remain in that 7th spot as we move around to heat number 3, second run for Ben Wallace. It's going to be the last rider to wrap up heat number 3 as we work our way through our 24 athletes out here. So Ben Wallace right now looking at the course. He is currently sitting
in 5th place right now with an 82.5. Ben Wallace, he was excited after run number 1. Got all his tricks set and linked up. Let's see if he's able to improve and move up in, so let's say a podium contention, but nice bar spin toboggan right there out of the British rider.
Now let's see if Wallace changes his strategy a little bit. He had some difficulty on that cannonball variation. He went, on that nothing variation, and you saw all of a sudden Wallace not able to recover from that, winds up waving off his second run. So you might be saying, well, why would a rider do that, right? He didn't crash out there on the course. Why is he not going to utilize all of his time and say, hey, you know what, that's a wrap? Well, he might feel very confident with his first run. It's a high score of an 82.50. But the other, even though the riders look really consistent and really comfortable doing these tricks out here, you still could potentially get hurt or crash. So if you feel comfortable with your run and you want to keep with that run, sometimes a rider will do that. Or if you're not in the right headspace and you wind up messing up your run, not getting it perfect the way you want, it's easy to wind up waving things off. So Wallace is going to stick with his 82.50 as we wrap up heat number 3. We're going to bring our riders at heat number 4 out onto the course as they get a moment or two to kind of warm things up. You can actually see our first place qualifier, Kevin Peraza, out there, his Mongoose teammate, cheering on Ben Wallace. So that even though that all our riders are competing for a spot in the Olympics, they're competing for their countries, you do see that BMX brotherhood and that camaraderie out there, which is great to see from Kevin Peraza. So let's look at a few highlights, breaking down the madness out here. While we do that,
big stuff coming from the Russian right there, as well from the Australian. As we note going through these heats, you just notice how many riders are coming out of each country. We've seen at least 4 riders coming from Great Britain, 2 riders coming out of Australia so far. We have a ton of American riders out there. This is a big thing. When you guys know that all the points are going together, you're coming out here as a team and competing as a country as a whole. But you know there's only going to be maybe 2 if your country wins coming into the Olympics, or only 1 rider out of your country moving forward. It's a huge competition and battle going for all these riders as they all want to make a spot in the Olympics for 2020.
Yeah, Ryan, that's a pressure cooker. You think about how many riders there are in the world globally. You think about any final, especially at a FIS World Series, we have 12 riders in there, and on any day, each one of those riders could potentially win. That's what the level we're dealing with here. But at the Olympics, only 9 riders will be competing in men's and only 9 in women's. Everyone around the world has heard of the Olympics, has heard of a gold medal, and would love to have that for their country. What a great service you could do of going back to your home country and say, hey, I got this gold medal for you. So the competition is going to be so fierce for all of our riders out there. As we take a look at our next 4 riders of the heat, Jose Torres Gil, Marin Rantish, Irek Reizev, and Jack Clark. The name Marin Rantish really stands out at you. That's because that is our defending champion from our FIS World Series. Overall, he had the goods of what it winds up taking to be in there. Well, our next rider getting ready to drop, he is doing it for Argentina. He's actually one of my favorite riders out in the contest, and we're going to see why. He's got that ability to just hit the blast button, to go straight up to the sky, especially over spine ramps. If you have a chance to travel around the world to any skate park, there's a good chance that they go, hey, Jose Torres Gil was here, and this is how high he went, with jaws dropped on the ground. There we go, starting things off with a big backflip transfer. We see him going out of the vert wall. Very cool line right there. That is the uniqueness of the course. It was so difficult to set up to go around the capsule that way. Your line in was very unique and hard, and especially coming out. There's the height that you have over the spine. We talked about that before he took the course, and Jose Torres Gil showing you that he's got the goods when it needs to come down to it. Big front flip, but the height being the consistent factor as he has 25 seconds to work with. 360 double tail whip, hanging up a little bit, but he's able to keep moving as Jose Torres Gil charges with 14 seconds to go. Alley-oop bar spin. Argentina being very well represented out here with 10 seconds on the double tail whip, going back to the box jump where he feels super comfortable. Downside 360 tail whip, stomping the pedals, and a wall ride coast to coast right there for Jose Torres Gil.
Great combinations coming out from Torres Gil.
Yeah, now Ryan, I want to talk to you a little bit about the height. I know that you're a lifetime rider yourself, and you know when a rider goes up that it's way more difficult, especially over a spine. But for someone who's maybe never ridden a BMX bike before, you're only traveling 6 inches. How is that even possible for someone to blast as high as we're seeing Jose right there?
Oh, it's all in the setup. When you're coming into the start of the transition, it's about really getting your body weight set into the momentum. Actually, I feel the faster you go, the less you have to kind of pull back. You just kind of get a pump in with your legs and pull back on the spine, but you're traveling as well to the side, not only linear, not only forwards, but you as well go to the side and make sure your bike whips out so that you can kind of scrub some of that distance with going to the side.
So there's a lot of physics going on there where you got to basically have a sliding scale of speed, of height, of body weight, of momentum, and then also a little bit of craziness to go on to give it and push it that far and that hard. But when you're Jose Torres Gil, that is known as finesse. So right now on course, we're getting ready to watch our defending 2018 FIS World Champion, the rider from Croatia, currently sitting 6th his nation 4 points as we move towards the Olympics. This is Marin Rantish. Marin, you can see a pegless rider. Bam! That was huge. Backflip, double tail whip. Massive is definitely the name of the game as Rantish does a 720 tail whip, full commitment, putting his pelvis all the way to the handlebars to make sure he gets that rotation coming around. Let's see Rantish charging back with a no-handed 3, utilizing that capsule. We talk about it being a linear game out here.
Oh! Holding on strong though. Just missing the handlebar on that bar spin, but still getting the landing with one hand miraculously. 360 tuck no-hander there, 270, pardon me, on the hip jump and coming up into the step up with a double tail whip right there. Pushing through, 10 seconds left on the clock. Enough time right now for one, maybe 2 more tricks. And he gets 3 in 1 right there with the 360 bar spin to tuck no-hander.
3, 2, 1.
That is time for Marin. That, I believe, was after the buzzer right there, so that flare will not be counting towards his score, but that's quite all right because he had an action-packed 60 seconds prior to that. Let's take a look at this entire highlight reel. Backflip double tail whip, such height. Coming on in, you actually saw his feet landed on the crank arms, but it wasn't phased at all, able to keep things rolling. That 720 with the tail whip, and that's where it almost all went wrong, but almost being the key word as Rantish almost slipped the pedal, slipped the grip, but able to put his hand right back on it. So Rantish going big. You can see the score to beat 88.50 held by Russia's Kostya Andreev. Croatia trying to get that top spot. Branagh, a very talented rider, actually working with his local municipality and the country of Croatia to build skate parks out there for the community, for riders, and also to have training facility for himself, because hopefully Marin will be one of the riders joining us in Tokyo. So we're seeing Marin fill that role of a pro BMX rider as far as being an ambassador for the sport very well, and getting a very well-deserved 84.75 for Branagh.
And our second Russian rider about to drop in right here. This is Irek Raizev. Both teammates and friends on and off the bike. Our first place man of the hour right now, the other Russian, Kosha Andreev in first place, but look at that crazy tricks, 360 triple tail whip from Irek Raizev right now. Toboggan transfer over that entire box jump.
Irek over the spine, double tail whip was on the menu this time. Getting that bike a little bit tweaked to the side. 450 with the bar spin. Aaron in setting up on the step up. Downside double tail whip 360. No hander over that box jump. Raizev charging back, this time opting for the step down. Smooth rotation with the body and the handlebars. Going coast to coast on that wall ride. Bar spin to no-handed transfer. You can see he lands and just putting the pedals on to get the speed and momentum to catapult off that quarter.
Big backflip tail whip right there. Very clean execution all the way down. Maybe has time for one trick here. Yes, that 360 downside tail whip on the step up. And that's going to do it. A solid first run for our other Russian competitor, Irek Raizev, right on course out here in Hiroshima.
So currently, Russia is in third spot for points coming into Hiroshima. The two riders those scores consist of Irek Raizev and Kostya Andreev. Irek Raizev on course. Look at the 360 double downside tail whip. So confident the way he just stomped the pedals. You saw he was able to hover his body above the bike and then just cleanly put down. The thing to note too, his run was very action-packed, not only with the tricks, but also with the speed to the end. He did put some pedals out there, but he was able to keep that momentum, and riders do have to do that on this course because there's not a lot of pockets and transitions and turns for them to work with. The ones that are on this course are a little bit off to the side and hard to find, and that's why we saw Jose Torres Gil. We got so excited when he did find that line to utilize the pocket in that way and not just stick to a linear back and forth.
Right now, we're waiting for the scores to come in for Irek. Kostya Andreev, the other Russian, currently is sitting in first place right now with an 88.50. That's the score to beat. That's what Irek wants to get as he's moving through the field here. But an incredible run already coming through. We saw some big tricks, some of the largest combinations in the entire contest. But as well as you watch, towards the end of the run, for instance, I want to touch, he did a backflip tail whip. And it just seems sometimes after you see 4 tricks in once consecutively, doing just a backflip tail whip maybe isn't that miraculous. But it's much better if a rider is able to get a clean landing, perfect to pedals, and such smooth execution like Irek got on that last trick of his run. And that's far better for the judges to see something like that than have a quick trick and slip the pedals. Score coming in there right now. New leader, Irek Raizev, 88.87, pushes out Kostya Andreev into second place with just tenths of points coming forward.
So Russia and Russia, 1 and 2. Raizev and Andreev are sitting strong. Third and fourth is getting hold on to from Australia, Lubos and Walworth. But we're going to move things over to Great Britain. Jack Clark, the JC, getting ready to roll in. He is sitting in 5th place overall for his country, along with James Jones. Let's see if Jack Clark can bring the heat for his first run.
Big trick right there from Jack Clark. I believe this is our 4th rider doing it for British Cycling out there. Some great support coming from the UK and just even better riding action. These are our top professionals in the world, and Jack Clark has some of the best style we've seen in BMX freestyle.
Jack Clark, killer combinations off the box. Right now we're seeing him take a similar approach to Yuri Graizev, charging with the speed. Even though riders are putting pedals in on the course, this is not necessarily a bowl course, it's a BMX freestyle park course. So their points aren't deducted if they're pedaling to build momentum for tricks like that 540 double bar spin 2 times around, kicking the tail whip on the hip. Jack Clark, inverted foot plant, jumping that hip, and a downside tail whip alley-oop transfer is going to put a big ribbon on it for Jack Clark. You can see Jamie Bestwick up there, the British cycling coach, very excited for Jack Clark putting down that run. We always talk about Jack Clark having some of the best style out there, and you can see it even in his tricks like a 360 double tail whip, spotting that landing perfectly, but this is one of the best ones. Great flow on his handlebars as he puts together those 4 different tricks, wrapping the X-ups, bar spins, and turn downs. Jack Clark doing it for radio bikes. That 540 double bar spin was a huge trick out there, getting the bars going around 2 times. You saw that throw, catch, throw, which was different than the Ken Intencio 360 double bar spin that we talked about a little bit earlier. Riders have the option, throw them any way they want, catch them any way they want. Style is definitely an important factor, but when you're Jack Clark and you can just see the confidence and control when you wrap them around, that is definitely a bonus that could potentially work in your favor. The score to beat is an 88.87 being held onto by Yuri Graizev. Score coming in, Jack Clark, the JC, an 81.12. So Jack barely bumping up into the 80s. He is going to be in that 9th spot. We have 24 riders riding. Top 12 will make it to the final. So if you are closer to that 12th spot, you are going to be biting your nails, hoping that you wind up qualifying in there. We're going back to the top for Argentina right now, currently ranked in 12th place with a 72. Looking to move up the ladder, this is Jose Torres Gil.
Great transfer right there, and coming up into another maneuver into that satellite dish.
So we're seeing Jose stick to his game plan on course, but this time maybe trying to just link it together, a little bit more height and a little bit different variations. Somewhere with that backflip barrel roll bar spin, airing up into our vert wall. Whoa, 3 times around, 1, 2, 3 on that triple tail whip. Bar spin, popping that flare at height. Ooh. Big 360 double tail whip.
Oh, going down for Torres Gil. That is an upset with only 15 seconds left on the clock while he hit the ground there. That's really going to be a wash for his second run. Unfortunate news coming out there from Jose.
Yeah, Ryan, that is very unfortunate indeed. A bummer to see him go down like that. I do want to give some credit and respect to the Argentinian rider coming out and just doing some big variations. Like that backflip transfer landing all the way into that steep takeoff. Here's a look at the 360 tail whipping around. Backflip off axis bar spin, spotting the landing so clean. And that triple tail whip 3 times around, and Jose 360 double tail whip, and then unfortunately just dumping it off to the side on that foot plant on the wall, gone sour. We're not counting him out just yet. He is sitting on that bubble spot with a 72. That means if no other rider ups the score above a 72, Jose Torres will be in. But when we still have our top qualified riders who have yet to take the course, that is not a position you want to be in.
From Croatia, our one rider on tour out here, Marin Rantis, going to have his second time on the clock. Currently with an 84.75. Score to beat right now is that set from Yuri Graizev with an 88.87. Oh.
So it looks like Rantis is going to wind up waving that one off. The 84.75, he feels confident in that 5th spot. One thing I want to note, and I don't want to speak on Marin's behalf, but when he hit the box jump, we can actually witness the flags on the course start to pick up and blow around. They actually have died down a little bit after his run. You can see them on screen right now. So that means that the wind is gusting a little bit out here. When he went off the box jump, you actually can see he got blown a little bit off to the side. It looked like he set up. Now, I don't know if that's just because he was going to go for a super powerful move, maybe trying to put 3, 4, or 5 hits in one air. They didn't land properly. You get thrown off a little bit. Your game plan goes and says, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be able to top my first score. I'm going to wave this one off. It's safe to say sitting in that 5th spot, it's a pretty confident position, but we still got our riders of Heat 5 and 6 to remain.
As we move back to Ilya Graizev, we see on screen here our current first place holder with an 88.87. He's going for his second run. Let's see if it's just going to be a chilled out victory lap. He knows he is going to be in qualifying spot. Starting off with that foot jam to tuck no hander right here. Oh, massive amplitude on that 360 tail to perfectly clicked tabletop.
Yeah, Ryan, not only is there amplitude out here, but tons of style folding the bike over. The tabletop is a traditional BMX trick, but putting that tail whip in it beforehand is totally crazy to lay over like that. Graizev charging with the bar spin to tuck no-hander. Look at him just pulling back the throttle, putting the hard pedals in, and somehow going even higher out of that quarter pipe. Graizev with a huge backflip tail whip to tuck no-hander. This somehow is an improvement from his first run we're seeing out. I didn't even think that was possible. 18 seconds to go, getting that 180 half cab. These are very important moments right here for a run. Double tail whip hanging up a little bit, a no-hander.
I don't know if you guys back home can see that on your screens, but the smile hasn't left Ilya's face the whole entire round. This was a totally different approach to tackling the course. It was basically a victory lap for him. It was less trick-wise, let's say, than his first run, but maybe as well it's a way to just test the judges and see how they're going to reward his more stylish approach to tackling this freestyle contest.
Yeah, Graizev just charging out there, wants to have the Russian presence just be known. That was that 360 tail whip to flatty. So cool laying that over and upside down. The first rider we saw actually do that was our #1 qualifier, Kevin Peraza, and we're seeing a little bit of the trick pool change hands out there as the rider's influence can definitely be picked up by other riders. So Graizev with a very solid beginning part of his run, got a little bit lost in the last 10 seconds, but it's safe to say that he's going to qualify into the competition. His first run is so close to his second, but he's going to have so much room to work with in that final 15 seconds tomorrow in the finals.
Either way, the judges wanted to say that regardless, run 1 or 2, Ilya Graizev is standing in first place, and that's the way he wants to be. Moving forward now to Jack Clark for British Cycling. Jack is going to put his style forward, and let's see if he can move up in the rankings, currently sitting in 9th place.
Ooh, Jack Clark firing back, showing the same trick as Ilya Graizev, but put his own flavor on that 360 tail up the tabletop. And I'm liking the spice that Clark is serving up as he does a no-hander transfer. Clark charging towards the box jump, this time with that same 360 bar spin turned down to X up. Such a cool trick to put together. Jamie Bestwick, the British cycling coach, does that trick on vert. Might have gave a few pointers to Clark as saying, let's show the versatility out there. Clark charging wall-to-wall, coast-to-coast with the opposite wall ride. Let's see Clark come into our spine ramp, 360 toboggan. 540 this time with the single bar spin.
Holding things really together here. Jack Clark getting all the tricks down for maybe 2 more. The 270 downside tail and a flare right there. Going to be time for not one last. That was after the buzzer. So holding things strong for Jack Clark. Some incredible tricks and difficulties and some huge originality rolling through. Let's see if we have a look at some of these highlights. There is again answering back to Ilya Graizev's 360 tail whip to flatty. As well, some unique ways of taking off. I saw an inverted Smith skull. Maybe we'll be able to check. Oh, and a beautiful invert off-axis flip right there for Jack Clark. 540 bar spin on the quarter pipe. Some big tricks and a very unique way of pulling them. Wait for the scores to come in. If you guys are wondering what to do back home while scores come in, check us out on Twitter or Instagram at Fise World, as well our YouTube page. That's at Fise, F-I-S-E, as well Fise Official. Make sure you guys check us out and hashtag all your posts on social media, Fise Hiroshima, to stay involved with all the action.
So waiting for Jack Clark's score to come in.
Have our next rider as well coming in. That's going to be Daniel Dares, a man who needs no introduction in BMX. Let's take a look back and see some of the amazing action that has been done from Daniel Dares out here in 2018.
Daniel knows he's going to have to throw a big run out of his hat. Everyone back home as Daniel lets a no-handed 720 rip over the spot and a flare at a lot of height.
Let's hear for Daniel Dares!
Dares with a double tail whip, but it was crazy the way that he just waited. Big transfer going alley-oop into the camelback.
Beautiful action coming out of the Venezuelan rider Daniel Dares right there. You can follow him on social media. It's on your screen right now. And that means we're starting off heat number 5. Daniel Dares, Justin Dowell, James Jones, and Ryan Nyquist. You do not have to adjust your hearing. Those are 2 of the top legends in BMX, followed by 2 amazing athletes as well.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm so excited to watch this heat right here because we do have the legend of Nyquist, and we also have one of the riders who came up looking up to Ryan Nyquist, and he's been a champion many a time. For talking about Venezuelan, Daniel Dares. He is getting ready to roll and drop in. The big highlights to know about Dares, he actually was our Fise World Series overall champion in 2014, also in 2017, and last year in 2018, he got second place by such a small margin of points. Down to the wire, he was 200 points behind Marin Rantish. When you're talking about a global points race where each stop is so important, the fact that it was down to 200 minuscule points just shows that it's that close out here with the progression of riding. And somebody who's been leading the charge for the last decade is Daniel Dares, as he does a no-handed off-axis 720. Daniel Dares on course right there, paying some homage to one of his biggest inspirations, Dave Mira, with Dave Mira's signature seat out there on his bike. That's definitely a new addition to his ride for 2019 as he charges with the 360 bar spin. Daniel Dares currently living in North Carolina, where he's got his own action sports facility where he rides on the regular. And he actually had Marin Rantish out there this winter with the 2 riders. There is that camaraderie, and Marin was training with Daniel, so you do see that brotherhood. But I know when it comes down to game time, Daniel wants to be on that top podium, and he's done that in almost every major competition in BMX. Dares with that wall ride quarter to quarter, no-hander, and a final thought on the spine. 360 double tail whip landed those pedals.
Beautiful run coming out of Daniel Dares for his first attempt on this Hiroshima course. We speak about it so often that he dissects all these courses so that he is most able to get the highest scored points by the judges. He basically looks at it in a very analytical way and moves through. And this is why he's been able as well to stay so many times on top of the podium at consecutive events throughout the entire world. Daniel Dares is really searching for that spot to be the one Venezuelan rider tackling BMX in the 2020 games.
Yeah, Ryan, it's going to be interesting to see the way that Daniel plays the game out here moving towards the Olympics. He likes to break down and get a first run in with difficult tricks, get a score, and when it's his best run format that counts, once he checks that box, he then tends to do a similar run but with more difficult tricks in there, knowing that the only spot the judges have to do is move his score further up the ladder. That's generally his technique that he's done for the last 10 years, where he's won X Games gold medals, Dew Cups, Beast World Series, all different independent events, and just recently a huge UCI event that took place down in Venezuela. So Dare's right now an 87.62, not a bad spot to be sitting in at all, as Russia still sits in the top spots 1 and 2, and Venezuela is going to be in the 3rd right there. Our next rider to take for heat number 5, he is from the United States. You know the name because he was our UCI World Champion winner in 2018. He scored the biggest chunk of points, winning the rainbow jersey, and currently working it for Team USA to put them in the top spot with combined points from Justin Dowell and Daniel Sandoval.
Woo! Look at that incredible trick, the Twix we call that. Bar spin, tail whip at the same time.
Sandoval riding so good this season, off to a great start. He was also at our Feast Battle of Champions. He has a brand new bike built up just for the year. Mike Laird, a fellow Carolinian bike builder, built a custom ride just for Dowell, as he is one of the top USA competitors out here and wanting to be in the Olympic Games. 360 downside tail whip, 360 toboggan. Dowell grew up riding in Virginia Beach. He might seem like a park rider, but anything he can put his 2 wheels on, he has done it from the dirt to the street. And there was a 360 in the opposite direction over that step down, because he's hitting the box in the backwards direction with the 360 look back. And that is going to wrap things up for Dowell with his first run on the course.
Well, right down to the wire there, Justin Dowell for Team USA.
Yeah, Ryan, we mentioned the fact that you see some riders representing for their country. Well, that is what's going on as far as the points go towards the Olympics. Each country is allowed to have their own federation where they will build a facility or get as involved with the riders as the country chooses. So you have some teams like Great Britain or the United States that actually get behind the riders with a team. They wind up building some ramps. They help with support getting out to the events. They can have coaches or not. And then there's other programs out there that are maybe a little bit more elementary in getting their footing and getting started. And they might just help with some financial support or just really cheering on the rider that gets out there. So as we're making history in real time going towards Tokyo 2020, we're seeing all the involvement of the different countries and the support. So Dowell Team USA out there, you see him in the rider pit. That's actually Alessandro Barbero for Team Italia. He was in our qualifier. He didn't move out, but it's awesome to see Alessandro out here and all the international riders really putting it on. It shows how difficult it is to even make it into the semifinal. You can see them having some fun out there, repping both of their countries, USA and Italy. Dowell waiting for that score to come in.
Oh, and it's going to be good enough for 7th place. 84.5. Moving to Jones right now.
Our next rider, Jace Jones, is a very important one to follow. He exploded onto the contest scene last year. He is no stranger to BMX, but he definitely made his presence known at the Beast World Series. Richard King of British Cycling was telling me all about the hype that James Jones brings and the excitement, and by the crowd here in Hiroshima cheering on our athlete, it's definitely ringing true. Jones transfer in, setting up on that box, backflip, bar spin to no-hander. Jones putting the pedals in, equating to that throttle coming down. 360 tail whip transfer, putting that back end spin multiple times around. Jones, 26 seconds to work with. Let's see if he's gonna get tech. Yes, he does. Landing in that disaster with the tail whip, spotting his pedals. Ryan, he's got that bar spin to foot jam coming in.
Great technical abilities right there from Jones. 360 tuck no-hander. Setting up here for one last trick. 5 seconds on the clock, and that's going to be a nice corked out backflip or cork 360. Whichever way you look at that glass.
Tomato, tomato, it's both different ways. The one thing to know, it's definitely looking and sounding good. Huge off-axis 360 out there. So again, our judges, Dave Cleworth, Brian Kaczynski, Marcus Vilke, Dave Dilward, and the legend Ruben Alcantara, all under the eye of another BMX legend, Bart DeJong, who is doing it for the UCI, making sure that all of our technical degrees of difficulty are being notched out here and checked off the list, and making the competition as fair and to Olympic standards as possible. 360 double tail whip around. There's that disaster tail whip coming in. Jones with that bar spin foot jam. I love the way he's able to just lean that bike over to the side, not only on that foot jam, but also on that off-axis 360. Like you said, you want to call it a barrel roll, you want to call it an off-axis flip or a dipped out 3. Call it anything you want, but definitely call it awesome as Jones comes around at the end of his run and spotting that landing. Jones, such an exciting rider to have out here. There's our judges, Marcus Vilke, Dave Dilward waving, Ruben Alcantara throwing up the hang loose. You can see our MC Catfish up there bouncing around to some of the tunes. DJ Dadu keeping everybody pumped up as we work through our semifinal heat number 5.
Some legends up there from BMX, but as well for the FIS World Series. We have a huge crew of people traveling around and making this event series happen for you guys. It's 2019, and we are the first stop out here in Japan, getting things going. James Jones' score coming in with an 83. It's good enough for 9th place. We're gonna have to see if he is able to improve that one for the second run. But moving forward now, we're talking about a legends. This is a man that everyone in two-wheeled sports has been following for over 2 decades. His own BMX video game that I used to play as a child, looking forward to chewing it myself. This is Ryan Nyquist from the United States of America, dropping in out here in Japan.
Nyquist charging double bar spin on that 450 spin around. Nyquist has been riding so focused, he actually just built brand new backyard ramps and has been putting the work in on the bike. Big 540. Wow, the only rider we saw spin that 540 on the quarter pipe up high, straight into that box jump variation with the bars in a 720. Nyquist right now is riding possessed on the course as he has 30 seconds to work with.
That very unique and traditional Nyquist pinch the seat, double bar spin, just throws the bars and watches them float around until he catches a perfect moment. Backflip backwards on that box jump, enough time for a 540 bar spin and maybe 2 more tricks. Double bar spin over the spine, coming up into the hip section. What does Nyquist have? 360 one-handed X up. And 2 more seconds, he's gonna get this one, a dump 360 on that step-up jump. A solid run for Ryan Nyquist.
Wow, Ryan, so many things to talk about here. I mean, let's look at the madness of Ryan Nyquist. You can see the focus, not only on the course, 540 on the elevated highest quarter pipe out there, but also over the box jumps, a backflip double bar spin. Look at this 720 spot in the landing, and a thing to definitely note is Ryan Nyquist's bike setup. He has no pegs on his bike and has definitely streamlined his setup out there. He still has that front brake, which a rider can choose to put on their bike along with the back brake. You see Nyquist definitely poured all of his energy into his run. He's taking a breather right now, trying to refocus. He knows he still might have to ride a second score run that could be very important. You're seeing a legend of the sport, and you are seeing a little bit of what it takes to be a champion for decades. Let's see if Nyquist will have what it takes to be one of the top 12 riders that can move into our final tomorrow. That was a big run for Nyquist.
Nyquist score coming in right here. First place, Ryan Nyquist, a 91.87. The hero out here for Freestyle BMX and for the crowd out in Hiroshima. Nyquist 91.87. That is going to be a score that sticks up top for a while.
Nyquist put Team USA right on the top. The only score exploding into the 90s. The 91.87 1.87. The legend, Nyquist, going up. You can feel the electricity here, not only with the fans in Hiroshima, but all the other riders are so excited because they look up to Ryan. They might have even influenced and inspired them to pick up a bike and get into BMX, seeing him decades ago throughout the sport. We are going to go back up to the top of the list, though, of heat number 5, and this is Daniel Dares.
Wow, that really just put the excitement into the atmosphere out here. And Daniel Dares, you see as well, that huge smile and gratitude as his fellow rider out there just did an amazing run. Daniel is going to push forward and see if he is able to top that score. He's definitely had runs in the past that are well into the 90s. Daniel Dares right now hitting that pocket and coming backwards on that box jump with a 360 tuck no-hander.
Yeah, Daniel Dares was in the final last year and actually got 3rd place here in Hiroshima, so he knows what it takes. Let's see if Dares just continues with that consistency of his first run. It looks like Dares might have pulled back off the throttle a little bit here, knowing that his current 4th place position is going to be enough to make him qualify. Looks like Dares knows that it's going to wind up coming down to tomorrow's final, so he is very confident and comfortable in his 4th spot of an 87.62. Not saying that that 360 double tail whip off axis was not too shabby at all, but his score of the first will definitely be the run that sticks out there. Wow, this is so exciting to see, Ryan. We've got the legend, Ryan Nyquist. We've got Daniel Dares, who has definitely been a top competitor for the last decade, winning all the different contests. They both live in the North Carolina area where they have their own skate parks. Nyquist now just closed his own indoor training facility, the Unit. He built some new ramps in his backyard. Nyquist is working with the UCI and with the women's BMX as being their guidance, their mentor, their coach. But you know what? He's saying, hey man, I'm getting back in this. I'm going to put all my effort and energy in there. And that's why you see Nyquist with that 91.87 in that top spot.
It's just beautiful to see so many of the achievements that Nyquist and Dares both have had for freestyle BMX throughout the years, and just such a gratitude and devotion to the sport itself. See it come kind of full circle out here in 2019 as we're leading to that first time BMX freestyle will be in the Olympics. But for a young rider who might be there himself, Justin Dell right now on course, going for that Twix, the bar spin tail whip combination in one jump right there. A beautiful flare bar spin on that quarter. Let's see how it unfolds for Justin Dell.
Dowell, you can see riding with a little more intensity in his second run as he backflip double bar spins up the step up. This is your 2018 UCI World Champion. He won the coveted rainbow jersey. 360 X-up transfer. Dowell up the vert wall, back at us. Downside 360 floating perfectly to the pedals. 360 over that box jump. Dowell's working with 15 more seconds as he truck drivers. Step down with that 3. Come on, Dowell. Hand plant on the wall.
Turn out with 3, 2.
And it looks like Dowell's going to wrap his run up similar to his first, but throwing that 5:40 with a few additional seconds on the end there. So Team USA showing very strong representation out there. As we mentioned, this is a representation for the countries to qualify for the Olympics. That's who is going to be gunning to be out there as far as the points qualifier goes towards Tokyo 2020. But this is also the FIS World Series, where the riders are out there competing to see who is going to be the points leader and be crowned the overall 2019 FIS World Champion. Dowell finished 4th overall in 2018, so he is definitely a top competitor.
Judges right there plugging away, make sure that they have everything tabulated. Joe right there from Raw Motion on the right hand side of the screen, making sure that this all comes in efficiently. Dowell is going to be improving his score, but only by 2 points, 86-12. It's good enough for 7th place. Moving forward to our second run, James Jones, 83 even right now. He is currently sitting in 10th place for British Cycling as well. Had a lot of support coming out here from Great Britain. from all countries. This is a global event sports series out here for the fees.
James Jones knows if you're sitting in 10th place and you still have 4 more riders to go who have not yet competed or put a score on the board, that your odds are not necessarily looking in your favor to be in that final. This is going to be a very important run for British cycling's James Jones. That was huge. Unofficially the highest air we have seen so far in the competition. James Jones transferring over, setting up for something big. Boom, a 3-hit combo, backflip, bar spin to tuck, no-hander. Here we go for Jones, looking to fire back with another haymaker over the box jump and getting that connection.
Big
right to the
right
jaw,
there.
off axis 720, knocking the fans here off their feet in Hiroshima. Bar spin up. Jones, disaster, tail whip back in. Very technical combination, relying on that bunny hop. Let's see Jones working down to the nitty gritty. Bar spin, foot jam, 2 for 2 on that combo. First run and second run. Double tail whip coming up, decade around. Jones just has to keep it together over the last box. Truck driver to no-hander, big run for Jones.
Jones coming right here, just finishing some things off with the lip tricks. This is after time. We're gonna have to wait and see if that score improves, if he gets better than the 10th, but currently that is going to be good enough. Let's see how things work out. We're gonna have some highlight looks at James Jones's run right now.
Look at the height right here. Bar spin with the no-hander in the flare and one of the unofficial highest airs so far of the competition. James Jones, such an exciting rider to watch. Look at the style on that off-axis 720 coming on in. You can see the setup of Jones' bike, just stripped down, no pegs, no brakes out there. And to be riding in a park competition like that is so cool. I'm gonna dig deep into the encyclopedia of BMX and give a little shout out to Garrett Burns. The New Jersey rider is one of the first riders to ever enter a park course without any pegs on his bike and won first place at the Goodwill Games back in New York City. I believe it was 99. We actually woke up at my house that morning and went to the contest and he took home first place. So shout out to Garrett Burns out in New Jersey. We're seeing right now James Jones though charging with an improvement on his score in 85. So he's gonna be in that 8th spot right there for James Jones, but we are looking at the scores, and the man whose name is on the top of the list, the riding legend himself, Ryan Nyquist, the only man to just catapult with a 91.87 in the 90s. So Nyquist knows he's sitting well. Let's see how he takes the approach on his second run.
Some incredible work coming out of Ryan Nyquist, just devotion to two-wheeled sports in general. He's been on the FIS World Series competing in as well, mountain bike, slope style throughout the last couple of years, but really pushing his time towards BMX, where it all started for Nyquist over 2 decades ago.
So Nyquist out here, you're saying, why is he just cruising out on course? That's because it's a best run format that counts. He's got the highest score of the day. He's in the 90s. He is definitely qualified to move on. There you see a nice laid back style no-hander. And Nyquist looking for the turn down, just having a good time out there. Just showing some people he's got a good spirit when it comes to bikes and definitely a good time. If you don't follow him on Instagram, at Ryan Nyquist, you can see the way he breaks down a little bit behind the scenes, being a family man, being a BMX lifer, and also competing in the mountain bike circuit as well. Nyquist has been charging harder than ever out there.
We have our final heat, 6th heat on course right now, warming up. See Nyquist right there, our first place, hot seat leader, 91.87. Incredible riding out of our competitors today. But a huge ups goes out to the legend right there, Ryan Nyquist on screen. As we wait for our 6th and final heat to line up, I want to take a look back at some highlights from Nick Bruce in 2018. Some of the ups and downs coming from the season of Nick Bruce last year. A huge 540 flare coming into the box jump, and that huge course 720 tuck no-hander, laying it down right here, backflip tail whip.
Bruce last week at Woodward East in Pennsylvania, and Nick is in top form, ready to bring it as well. You have to thread the needle. And Bruce right there, 360 tail whip, kicking it back deep.
One more trig, a huge flare tail whip, stomps it.
Ryan, you said it, the ups and downs of Nick Bruce. We saw all of his ups on the course. Unfortunately, he didn't finish as well as he would have liked to in Chengdu, China. The rest of his season was solid, even with a win in Montpellier, but having that unfavorable score at the last stop, he finished third overall for the year. Nick Bruce is going to want to be up in that top spot. He's one of Team USA's highest hopefuls out there as we move towards the Olympics, and that's because Nick takes care of himself, not only on his bike, but also off his bike. He spends a lot of time training in the gym, also getting his mind in the right spot, meditating, and making sure he does any rehab and just any things that your body might need when you wind up putting as much abuse on a daily basis as you do as Nick Bruce. So right now we're looking at the last four riders: Bruce, Nakamura, Martin, and Peraza. That means 4 more riders remain. Means that we're taking 12 riders into the finals. So if you are sitting in 8th or above, that means you made it in. But if you are on the bubble, Marin Rantish, Jack Clark, Declan Brooks, or Ben Wallace, you could still potentially get bumped out. Each one of these riders needs to get a score higher of 84.75 to make their way into the final. So right now, Team USA, Nick Bruce dropping in.
That's right, Bruce right here, one of the top American hopefuls with some incredible amplitude on that court out 720, 360 double downside tail up on the step up and gaining some momentum into this big quarter pipe with a hand plant on coping right there.
Nick Bruce from Ohio, he rides at Chang'e 2 on the regular, where he definitely polishes all of his tricks like that backflip tail whip. Bruce, manual, setting up for a flare transfer, landing very high on that vert wall. You want to do that to get the momentum carrying for that 360 tail whip transfer coming down.
Oh, and just looping out on that 360 over the box jump backwards. If we get a replay look from that right side, maybe we'll be able to see what happened there, but he went a little bit too deep, hitting transition at the very bottom and over his rear wheel, looped out, caught himself. Luckily, it could be a very painful one if he didn't land on his feet right there, but unfortunate. Nick Bruce is going to have to flag that one off and stick on the bike for run number 2 if he wants to get into the finals tomorrow. 360 double downside tail up right there. Some huge action coming out of the American on his first run, but not able to hold it together to the buzzer.
Yeah, that is so unfortunate. Nick Bruce going down. It's about the entire 60 seconds out there. You see he just landed low on that. Too much horsepower, too much pressure blowing off the back of the bike. Nick Bruce able to get out of it on his feet. So that means run number 2 will definitely be something that will be of importance for him. His score is going to be a 60. Best run format that counts. The pressure is going to be on for Nick Bruce. We talk about the consistency being something that's very important, and our next rider was able to be consistent throughout the season. He actually finished 5th overall. If you hear everybody in Japan just starting to get a few octaves louder, that's because they're cheering on the pride of Japan, Rim Nakamura, as he just blasts onto the park with that wild 360 tail to bar spin variation. Rim, one of the younger riders out in the contest, but just showing that he's got the experience because he grew up riding BMX. His dad actually owns a bike shop in Japan. He was named after a bicycle part known as the Rim, which you can see being the focal point of his wheel on that turn down. Rim 360 triple bar spin over the spine.
Incredible riding for the local Japanese rider out here, Rim Nakamura, with some big combinations. And into that spine, 720 bar spin, huge tricks from Nakamura. 15 seconds left on the clock, a nice bar spin on that quarter pipe. No foot can, what does he have down here? Transfer with that 360 1 foot can. Enough time for one more trick here. The tuck no-hander finishing off for a Japanese competitor.
Hiroshima, he's going off right now for Rim Nakamura. We actually have to adjust our headsets up here because you can just hear the energy of the crowd going absolutely wild for Rim. So we talk about the Olympics taking 9 riders into the Tokyo Games, and Japan will actually have the opportunity, as being the host country, to select a rider into the Games. I can't speak on behalf of Japan, but unofficially you would expect them to select Rim, as he has been one of the highest competing riders in our Feast World Series and also throughout the points race series, which started in November 1st and is going to be going to May 11th. So Rim right now is going to potentially be in the Games, but this is the Feast World Series, and I know he wants to be on top of that podium as well. Rim's first run was solid, and let's see, the score to beat is the 91.87. Nyquist, the only rider in the 90s. Right now, Ben Wallace is sitting in 12th on the bubble. He could potentially get bumped out, and that can change as we wind up working our way through our last 4 riders of heat number 6. Rim's run was just unbelievable, putting it all together with many bar spins in one air, many spins, many blasts off the quarter pipe, and really utilizing the entire 60 seconds out there. Those were very big runs, but it's all about the semifinal being one of the top 12 riders. So score coming in, 87.87. Yes.
There we go. Yes, Rim.
So Rim securing himself in the finals. Again, the crowd is just ecstatic down here. We are hearing the energy come in. We actually have to keep adjusting our headsets because the crowd is going so wild. We're just hearing the volume cheering on the support right there for their fellow rider.
Talking about cheers and stadium support, Logan Martin, who's been able to come out here and be one of the fiercest competitors in BMX freestyle history, knows how to get it done when the pressure is on.
Yeah, Logan unfortunately was injured last year. That's why he was not on the top of the Feast World Series where he was in the years past of being 2016 and 15. Right now, charging with that transfer around, Logan Martin definitely is a rider who has pushed what it takes as far as being an athlete on and off your bike. He is so committed to his craft of BMX and also the art of competition. Logan doing it for Australia. We already saw Woolwork and Lubos on course. Australia's currently sitting in the number 2 spot.
Real precision right there on that spine backflip tail whip from Martin. 10 seconds left on the clock. Wow, look at how clean he did that double tail whip downside in that 360. Amazing execution right there, and finishing it off very strong. True competitor right to the end of the clock with that flare whip.
Ryan, I gotta tell you, the fact that each country will win a spot in the Games and then the country gets to choose who the rider is going to be, that's gonna be a very difficult decision. So just to clarify, let's say if right now Australia is sitting in 2nd place with the top 2 combined points for Brandon Lubos and Jake Woolwork.
Yes.
And let's say at the end of this points race, they wind up finishing in 2nd. That means that they're gonna get 1 spot for a rider to get a place in the Games.
Yes.
Well, then they can choose whoever it might be. It doesn't necessarily have to be Lubos or Woolwork. They could bring in, right here, Logan Martin. That could also work the other way around. So it's going to be a very interesting strategy thing. This is the first time we're really seeing riders ride for their country and more for a country's strategy out there. Logan Martin, though, for himself in the Feast World Series, putting down a very big, solid first run. The crowd feels that way. You and I feel that way. I know everyone at home feels that way. But it's going to be up to Brian Kaczynski, Marcus Vilke, Dave Dilward, Dave Cleworth, and Ruben Alcantara to feel that way, and they agree with us.
91. I knew it was an amazing run, but as well, I agree with the judges. I love Nyquist coming out here and just putting it on the limit. Moving forward to a man who knows no limit, Kevin Peraza from Mexico, Vans Monster Mongoose, the biggest white grill in BMX. Peraza out on course right now in our first place qualifier.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing to note. Peraza was able to utilize
utilized the park like no other in our qualifications to get in that top spot. We are seeing that 360 tabletop out of the tail whip.
Yes, I love that Superman C-grab right there.
Peraza getting technical when it counts. There was that nose press wraparound that Jake Lebo was looking for earlier.
Oh, style, Kevin Peraza. I love watching you, man. This is BMX freestyle at its finest.
The energy here in Peace Park just being turned up to a level we didn't think possible. Everybody's been so great cheering on our riders, but it's definitely to a whole nother level when Ryan Nyquist got that top spot and has not stopped just getting pumped up for right now Mexico's Kevin Peraza. Oh!
Sprocket grind across the box jump. Fakey alley-oop tail whip right there from Kevin Peraza, really taking this course to his own riding style.
Wow, Peraza doing it for Mexico out there. Very well represented for Mexico.
Wow.
You couldn't pick a better run out there. It had every box checked. The big airs of that 360 tail whip to invert. He had that tech nose press wrap around into the quarter pipe. He then tire slid and wound up working the side of that box jump and hopping back in, and he had the big start of that bunny hop tail whip coming in. Look how inverted the mongoose rider, completely upside down.
That just ticks so many boxes for me. Flow, originality, versatility, style. With that Superman C-grab right there, the extension, the execution, the landings, everything was perfect for me. Some just incredible tricks, and take out this. A pedal grind across the box and then into that fakey, that fakey tail whip out.
Yeah, getting that half cab whip coming in. Peraza, big run in Mexico, I know, is going absolutely mental right now. He is being cheered on by Alex Vasquez, who is in the house, giving the support. That's Mutante Bikes from Mexico saying, let's go, Kevin. You actually see right there, giving that pound, showing that support. That's Alex Vasquez in the back saying, let's go, Kevin. And you can see the spirit of BMX freestyle. Kevin is definitely not taking things too serious out there off his bike, but on the bike is a whole nother story. That run was solid. He's showing you why he was their top qualifier. His run had so much diversity out there. He didn't just stick to one thing, and he had that uniqueness, not only utilizing the capsule, he did do that pedal grind, and I said a tire slide because you can actually see the white wall tire that he has just smeared like a Bob Ross paintbrush on the side of the box jump, putting his own signature out on the course. Peraza, though, big run. Let's see if the number is going to bump him up into the 90s as well, because the two riders holding up in that spot are Ryan Nyquist and Logan Martin, USA and Australia. I know Kevin would love for Mexico to be properly represented up there as well.
I mean, this was a perfect representation to showcase everyone who was not able to witness qualification why Peraza went up top, and just a couple milliseconds of points separating Nyquist and Peraza. Peraza in a very respectable second place with a 91.81 right there, and I believe 0.87 is what Nyquist is holding right now. Nick Bruce moving forth into his second run, but he knows pressure is on. He wasn't able to get a first run out of the gate. This is going to be make it or break it into the finals for Nick Bruce.
So that means, unfortunately, Jack Clark is going to be bumped out, and Marin Rantish is on the bubble right now. Rantish is definitely saying, oh man, if Nick Bruce doesn't get this, I will still remain in the competition.
Nick Bruce with that nice hand plant right there. Transfer with a double tail whip, coming up with big tricks. He knows that the pressure is on. Backwards, and then hitting that step-up jump. Backflip tail whip right there.
Nick Bruce is the only rider who has not qualified yet. Marin Rantish is in 12th. He is the only rider that could potentially get bumped out of the competition. Our 2018 Feast World Series champion is positioned for the finals, is on the line if Nick Bruce can keep this thing together out here and get higher than an 84.75. Bruce, bar spin over the hip, Team USA. Wall ride to tail whip, clean on those pedals.
This is going to be last trick. Setting up for that double tail whip. That's going to be a hard one for me. He was setting up definitely for that double tail whip. When the buzzer hit, it's going to be up to the UCI delegate up there on top of the judges tower to make sure and see if that last trick is going to count towards his score. Nonetheless, an incredible run for Nick Bruce as he set up here that 720 tuck no-hander right out of the gate. Things linked up phenomenally compared to his first run, able to really get all his tricks out, and it's just going to come down to a points race, see what the judges are able to tally up for this second run.
Brian, this is a nail-biter right here. Marin Rantish is in 12th with an 84.75. Nick Bruce, the only rider who has not qualified yet into our final. If Nick gets a higher score than our defending champion, Rantish, he will make it into the final. The score to beat, 84.75. Was Nick Bruce's second run enough? That's the question that everyone around the world wants to know. It's what you and I want to know, and that's what the fans here in Peace Park want to know. That was a solid run from Nick Bruce, but we know that he's got some of the biggest tricks out there and can unleash way deeper into his bag of tricks. It's not taken away from his second run, but this is going to be a close one indeed. The highest scores out there are in the 90s. And we're going to see from Bruce if he will be up there or not. Score is coming in. Will it be enough? And he does it. Nick Bruce will earn himself in a finals, and 88.67 will be his score. So that means Bruce will be in there. Unfortunately, Marin Rantish will not be joining us in the finals. He will be bumped back, and Bruce will solidify himself in the finals. What that means is our next three riders in heat number 6 have already qualified. These are quote-unquote victory laps in our semifinal, but right now Rim Nakamura is going to feed off the energy of Japan as he is just bringing the big boosting tricks to our box jump.
As you said, the stadium is erupting. You see the crowd packing in here in Hiroshima for Rim Nakamura. You guys are wondering where we are. We are in the former municipal park out here in Hiroshima City. And Rim Nakamura, our Japanese BMX freestyle competitor, is on course now. He has qualified already for tomorrow's final event and doing a solid run out here to get the crowd still on their feet. 360 double tail whip up the step up. 13 seconds left on the clock to see if he can get some improvements. This is then just going to change the seating order as the riders will drop in tomorrow if, for instance, Rim is able to improve his score from run number 1.
Ryan, you mentioned a really important thing, the seating order. The way it works, the riders will go in reverse order from qualifications today. That's why we saw Kevin Peraza, our number 1 qualifier yesterday, ride today. He went last, so whoever eats that top score will be riding last tomorrow. Why is that important? Well, it comes down to a strategy out here. Risk versus reward is always the name of the game in BMX freestyle. You want to do the progressive, difficult, hard tricks, throwing down the most in that 60 seconds. If you technically have the advantage of going last, you know how much you have to pour on and what tricks you might have to do to get in that top spot. So for example, when we saw Nick Bruce today, because he earned that honor of being the 4th rider to the end going, that means he qualified in 4th yesterday, he said, hey, how much do I have to put in? How many of my chips on the table to make this in and be here securely in the next day? So that's why our riders right now wind up playing for those different spots to be in, but it looks like Rim right there is going to stick with that 87.87. 2 more riders remain. They are definitely sitting in the top spots. We're talking about Australians Logan Martin with a 91 on his first run. It's so great seeing Logan Martin back for our first stop. Last year he was injured.
Whoa, I think that was a quadruple tail whip 4 times around. I was just gonna mention that he started off very unique, a nollie bar spin off of that sub box quarter pipe right there. Really strong execution of tricks right here. Competitor down to the wire. He's still wanting to improve his score, even though he's sitting in the 3rd place right now, with Kevin Peraza and Ryan Nyquist just above him.
Well, we are seeing a very dialed second run out of Mr. Martin as he spots the landings. That was a backflip 1-foot one-hander, just going right around, spotting the landing of that step down, backflip tail whip over the spine. Martin with 10 seconds to go.
Come back into the box jump for a final time, 360 double downside tail whip, and such smooth rotation on that, very consistent, and just held so thorough throughout that whole entire rotation. Finishing off after the buzzer, I believe, with that flare bar spin. Hands up to the crowd, and a phenomenal performance from the young Australian.
So it's going to be interesting to see how our riders will not only do in this competition, the Feast World Series, in our points period for the qualification for the Olympics, but also how do they fit within their own federation for their country? How do they fit in there? There was, we saw going around, I believe, Brian, was that a triple tail whip? No, it was 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 around. It's almost hard to see with that oil slick hyper frame right there, adding to the craziness of that quadruple going around. But how are the riders going to fit within their own federation? Like we said, they can earn a spot in the Olympics for their country, and then it's up to the federation to say, hey, who are we going to have in there? Right? You would think a country would want to say, hey, who's been the most consistent throughout the season? What? A 93.50. Logan Martin firing back, showing you the #1 qualifier. He is meaning business for Australia.
I was hoping to see Nyquist stay on top of that position throughout the rest of this run. Peraza knows that he's in a great position right now, laughing up top there. Our first place qualifier currently sitting in second place with an incredible 91.81. Kevin Peraza right now dropping in for a fun run. He knows he's qualified in for tomorrow's finals. Tail whip off that quarter pipe right there. 360, beautiful in one-handed invert.
Thing to note, that tail whip he kicked in the opposite direction from his first run. So we're seeing the strategy right now for Peraza, changing things up in his second run. This is very cool. He's not doing a carbon copy of his first run. Definitely putting the big tricks in here and still utilizing the course like no other rider out there. Let's see if he winds up getting tech right here. Pressing that front wheel, getting it 2 for 2 on that press to spotting the landing around on that rotation. Let's see if he goes back up for that pedal grind. He does. 180 bar spin, tail whip coming in. Peraza doing the unthinkable, 2 for 2 with those half cab whips coming back in. Mexico, stand up loud and proud for yours, Kevin Peraza. This is crazy, Ryan. We are seeing
an incredible run.
We are seeing our riders, even though they don't need to, just pour it on for consistency out here. Logan Martin could have just chilled so easily in his run. He could have chilled so easily and said, I'm not going to do that. And we just saw the same thing. We just saw the same thing out of Kevin Peraza as he wound up going around and just smashing a second run consistently with some of the most tech tricks. Look at that. That's not a carbon copy. The backflip 180 landing on the deck. Here's that nose press coming around with that 360 into the landing, the 180 bar spin, and the half cab tail whip. That was total technical insanity out of Mexico's Kevin Peraza.
Amazing riding coming out of all our incredible BMX athletes here, but just pushing totally to the wire. Logan Martin, Kevin Peraza, Ryan Nyquist, some incredible action right there. The scores are going to be tallied from our BMX judges on screen. Peraza right there, 91.81. It's going to be his first run score that holds, and that means that our first place qualifier coming out of this semifinals event is going to be for none other than Logan Martin.
Ryan, this is crazy. I just want to note, everyone, this was a semifinal. Everyone wrote it as if it was a final out there. Look at this, Australia on top, followed by USA, and USA, Kevin Peraza repping the Mexico colors out on the course. But we're seeing the graphic up there. Logan Martin, Nyquist, and Peraza 1, 2, and 3.
As well, the Russian Edek Ryzev, Nick Bruce, Kostya Andreev, Vrim Nakamura, Daniel Dares, Brandon Lupos, Jake Walworth, Justin Dells, and James Jones right there in 12th position. An incredible welcome to our FIS World Series 2019. Hiroshima, this is BMX Freestyle at its finest. What are your last thoughts on this incredible semifinal we just saw out there?
Brian, progression, progression, progression. It's nuts. The consistency needed from our riders and also representing their countries. There's a little bit more pride in each one of the tricks that they do out there. It's crazy that this is a semifinal.
Yeah, absolutely amazing riding. That's all I have to say as well. Incredible progression. But Logan Martin progressed his riding all the way down to the very end. When we didn't think that you could get higher than Nyquist 91, Martin did it. And let's take a look back to see the highlights and how Logan Martin ended up on top out there today. We see some runs right here. Martin started off strong with that nollie bar spin, that quadruple tail whip. Absolute insanity from the Australian out of his first box jump hit, but not letting up. Incredible tricks and huge impact all the way through to the buzzer.
As we watch Logan's second run, I want you to note the landings. This is what I felt really separated his run from other riders and also his first. So clean as he spots each landing and just confidently puts the wheels down. And when he lands, it's directly in a straight line off from whatever hit he had. There was not being squirrely, nothing off to the side. Even right there where he didn't get the distance all the way on the step down, he wound up landing extremely clean and still went forward, able to get that momentum cruising on through for all of the seconds on the clock. Coming in off the box jump, the 360 downside double tail whip. You see him hit a double tire ride up on the wall, and that was a very clean run. And here's a little bit of an exclamation point at the end with that flare bar spin. And look at his endurance right there. He's not even winded.
Absolute insanity. If you guys want to stay tuned for the other events coming up, bouldering is going to be happening in 1 hour time. That's 3 o'clock. And as well, Skateboard Street Pro Men's Final is happening at the end of today. That's going to be at 5:20. That's in 2 hours and 30 minutes time exactly. It's been an amazing start to the Hiroshima FIS World Series. Thank you so much, Daryl. Anything else we want to finish off with as we end this incredible semifinals?
To all of our riders around the world, thank you for tuning in. We are just getting started at the FIS World Series, and the excitement is here as we go to Tokyo 2020 Olympics.
Thanks so much for tuning in. It's been an incredible semifinal, but make sure you guys stay tuned for tomorrow's action. It's final day, Sunday, out here in Hiroshima. It's incredible weather. If you guys are in Japan, make sure you come out and join us. We'd love to welcome you as well. Stay tuned online and check us out there. I'm Ryan Meyer. This is Daryl Now. Thanks for tuning in.
Enjoy your time in the event and be safe on the course and take fun. Thank you so much.